Bom dia. Bom dia. Eu se calhar não preciso de microfone. Não sei se me conseguem ouvir sem microfone. Conseguem, ótimo. Mas também dá este aqui que está na mão.
Não ouvem.
Pois não ouvem. Com este conseguem ouvir? Não. Deixa eu ver se o Alan. Alan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Great. We're going to start. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank Universidade Europeia for hosting the event, and personally the Dean, Professor Elia. And I'd like to thank all the board and everyone that has been involved in this event. And I'm gonna play a kind of a prank on two of the most important people that were involved in this event, Raquel Lopes and Paul Jorge. So I'd like to ask them to join the stage, because I'd really like to ask you for a round of applause, because without them, this would be completely impossible. And without further ado, I'd like to invite the Dean. Thank you very much for all your support.
So good morning to all of you. I'm going to give you small words in English, and then I will pass to Portuguese as it was allowed by the organization. It's a pleasure to host this incredible conference here in Universidade Europeia. We have a very intense day because at the same time we are just starting the fair, the employability fair, which couldn't be more coherent in this case. Welcome to Universidade Europeia. Universidade Europeia is a Portuguese university, but a truly international university, because we are part of an Iberian group, and altogether we represent more than 45,000 students in Portugal and Spain, where we have 3 more universities. In Portugal, we represent 10,000 students, which means that we are the second most important private university in Portugal. And I'm saying this for all the international participants that do not have the chance to know better what we are. And now in Portuguese, muito bem aqui esta Universidade Europeia, como estava a dizer, nós somos parte de uma universidade que preza os valores da internacionalização. Portanto, é muito importante para nós recebermos eventos de caráter internacional e, sobretudo, eventos que tratam temas que não são nacionais, que não são internacionais, que são efetivamente eventos globais. Trabalhar a área do Interim Management parece-nos fundamental, daí já temos recebido o ano passado a primeira edição da conferência, desta associação que realmente se foca no necessário cuidado no que concerne à qualificação e requalificação dos melhores quadros. Este ano, a edição da conferência vai trabalhar em simultâneo os temas de Interim Management e inteligência artificial, parece-nos efetivamente da máxima relevância. A inteligência artificial veio para ficar, tal como os computadores que ficaram, mas também vieram e hoje não vivemos sem eles, tal como a internet nos longínquos anos 90, em que muitos dos nossos estudantes não tinham nascido, mas que também assustou, porque não sabíamos o que é que iria trazer em termos de substituição do capital humano, mas hoje não vivemos sem internet, não vivemos sem redes sociais, não vivemos sem tudo aquilo que a tecnologia nos traz e que nos transformou claramente em pessoas mais informadas, porque mais tecnológicas. Portanto, a inteligência artificial não vamos lutar contra ela, vamos lutar provavelmente ao lado dela. Discutindo hoje, com certeza, e no presente e no futuro, de que forma é que podemos beneficiar do tema da inteligência artificial. De forma, naturalmente, é que as pessoas vão ser mais ou menos apoiadas e no que diz respeito ao desenvolvimento das suas carreiras, a inteligência artificial irá impactar mais ou menos no seu desenvolvimento. De forma, naturalmente, também é que a inteligência artificial impacta já no processo de tomada de decisão. Portanto, naturalmente que hoje não vieram para me ouvir, mas perderam ouvir os nossos especialistas debater estes temas e, tal como digo muitas vezes na abertura ou encerramento deste tipo de eventos, creio que todos nós, ao sair daqui hoje, sairemos certamente mais informados e, portanto, melhor apetrechados para fazer face a tudo aquilo que o presente e o futuro nos traz, porque o futuro é já e agora. Muito obrigada a todos e desejo-vos uma excelente conferência.
Bem, eu parece que vou ser já está a tornar tradição, o MC de serviço. So I'll pass the word to Alan Bacali. Alan, I hope that you're still around. Thank you so much for being so late. Alan is with us from Australia, I believe. So Alan, thank you again for your time and your support for this cause. Thank you. Alan
Well,
Bacali.
thank you. Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you so much for having me and for putting this amazing presentation together. I just wanted to obviously use AI to do a little introduction presentation. I hope you can hear it.
Prazer estar aqui com vocês hoje. Gostaria de agradecer à European University, à Cumen Consulting e, em especial, a Raquel Lopes e Rui Serápicos pela oportunidade.
Okay, so I hope that came through. Were you able to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So look, if you guys want, we could start right away. I don't know if we need to recoup a little bit of the time and make my presentation a little bit shorter, but I'll try to be as fast as possible.
Go ahead. Let's start right away.
Okay. So first and foremost, we are living in an amazing age. All of us experiencing this, I think, need to give a pat on the back to each other because it's truly remarkable. As Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, says, AI is the most important, one of the most important things that humanity is working on. It's more profound than electricity or fire. And I completely agree. I think this is going to revolutionize everything that we do, every process and every development going forward. So really, really interesting times for all of us. In particular, obviously, we're going to focus on AI and interim management, and I have thought of dividing this presentation into 3 parts. And so there's going to be a very recent past, a present, and a future. And forgive me if some of you already know some of this information. And if I am redundant, please tell me to speed up and go to the next thing. Or if I'm going too fast, please tell me the same. So what are we going to, what I really want to focus on is the last 12 months, which have been incredible in the world of AI, specifically as for interim management in particular, the last week or the last 2 weeks have been just it's incredible with all the saga at AI, which I'm not going to dwell on because you probably already know what is going on. There are 1,000,001 articles and YouTube videos on it, so we will delve just slightly on it. But I just want to present basically this near past. So from a year ago, from a year ago to today, we're in November 23. So ChatGPT came out literally November 30th. So we are really in an amazing evolution. We are indeed in the science fiction of the 50s and 60s and beyond and 70s, really. If you think about the stuff that we're using on a consistent basis today, although we do not have flying cars as prophesized by the Fifth Element and so on and so forth, and our skateboards do not fly, they do go very fast on electricity. We have smart watches and we have them for a while, and now the SpaceX Dragon command docking station looks eerily similar to the Space Odyssey of Stanley Kubrick. So fantastic advancements. So as I said, November 30th, we're really shy of a year since ChatGPT came out as a generative pre-trained transformer, which really, in my mind, has changed it's one of those moments like the when Steve Jobs presented the iPhone for the first time, or when the first portable computer came out. Really an important moment in history. Obviously, it's not just that. I mean, I've been a technologist pretty much all my life, although I delve a lot into the arts. But if I can remember the same excitement, it's when the first IBM Deep Blue defeated Kasparov at chess. And then in 2016, just recently, Google's DeepMind AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol at Go, which was technically a lot more complicated and with a lot more variance than chess. And Sedol said something very important after losing the game. He said that this performance had inspired him to question his understanding of the game and to see new possibilities in Go that he hadn't considered before. And I think this is sort of the philosophy that we need to keep in mind when dealing with AI. Things are changing incredibly fast and incredibly, there are monumental changes to what we have been used to. And so this open attitude to explore new possibilities and new frontiers, just like a child would, I think is extremely important for us as managers, human beings, and everything. So as I said, ChatGPT was pretty much founded in 2015 by this incredible group of people. And I'm just listing their names because they have been obviously in the limelight in the past couple of weeks, some of them more than others, obviously. But I wanted to point out that Elon Musk was connected in the development, in choosing the name, in funding the organization before the split. So there are so many connections in between all of these companies. Ilya Sutskever was working at Google, and Elon Musk poached him from Google to work at OpenAI. So it is a very tiny little group of people that are changing the world with this little simple interface that, if you logged in the first time a year ago, you would be, reminiscent of something from the Soviet era. Really, it's very minimal, very basic, yet so powerful and so all-encompassing. So obviously, as I said, there are a lot of companies in the AI space. I'm just listing some of the major ones, and forgive me for not listing them, but just to give you a little bit of diagram. So we have ChatGPT, which, as I said, Elon Musk then left ChatGPT and now just recently formed xAI, and in particular Grok. One of the executives at ChatGPT formed Anthropic, which is responsible for Claude AI and other systems. Microsoft, obviously, as you know, has its own AI called Bing. Google has Bard. Meta is working on its own system, Llama 2. Stability AI, it's an open source LLM model, and much more. And Apple so far has been silent, although they integrate artificial intelligence in all of their processes. So it will be interesting to know how and when they come to the market with something truly spectacular, like they always do. So these are more or less the big, let's say, the big players in the generative AI space. In particular, we have the three major manufacturers, and there's many, many more, but NVIDIA has come to the prominence recently because of their incredible chips. Intel, obviously, and Google's and Alphabet. On the cloud computing platform side, we have Google Cloud, obviously, Microsoft Azure, and AWS as some of the biggest platforms. Now, I've created a chart with some hypothetical influence of AI, and this is debatable, and people can tell me that my percentages are wrong, and I will, totally accept that. This is personally my view. I just wanted to point out that OpenAI at the moment, in my mind, it's between 10 and 12%. While Microsoft is 18. But if you think that Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI, then we are looking at almost a 40 to 45% market penetration. So that's pretty much bigger than all the other competitors and so it's extremely interesting, and I want to focus on that later. I'm just going to point this out. The present. So I've been using AI.
Heard if it's going to come for the blue collar jobs, working in the factories, truck drivers, whatever. Then it will come for the kind of like the low skill white collar jobs. Then the very high skill, like really high IQ white collar jobs, like a programmer or whatever. And then very last of all, and maybe never, it's going to take the creative jobs. And it's really going exactly the other direction. And I think this there's an interesting reminder in here generally about how hard predictions are, but more specifically about, we're not always very aware, maybe even ourselves, of like what skills are hard and easy, like what uses most of our brain and what doesn't, or how like difficult bodies are to control or make or whatever. Yeah, it probably is just.
So I share wholeheartedly this thought that in my mind, AI was going to come again, for the accountants, for blue collar jobs, white collar jobs, and come to the arts really as the last resort, because I always thought that that was such a innately humane condition to be created, to be to sing, to dance, to make movies, to take photographs. And instead, it went completely the other way around. So it really caught me by surprise at the beginning of the year when all these programs start popping up. And I'm going to show you a little bit of what I use along with more business-like stuff, business-like software, so that you can get an idea of what is possible. And again, keeping in mind that my aim here is more to show you different point of views and using, you might do the same thing over and over for years, and then suddenly a program comes along and makes you rethink how to approach that subject. So this is in particular is what happened to me. So
we look at 100 years, okay, we can do the whole creative job. I think it's interesting that if you asked people 10 years ago about how AI was going to have an impact, with a lot of confidence from most people, you would have heard, first it's going to come for the.
Okay, sorry, this was, by the way, was Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI.
For the blue collar jobs,
has been
working
in quite a lot of distress in the past couple of weeks by becoming a CEO, non-CEO. There was 2 interim CEO that have come up and took the role for a very brief moment in time. And there's a lot of speculation on why this has happened, but I really don't want to get into it right now because there's a lot more to talk about. Anyway, these were my first prompts in January of this year. As you can see, very underwhelming results. Although I was trying to find to do some yachts in a shipyard with a aerial shot from a drone. I was like very excited to use all these prompts, and yet no results or very little. I tried with some logos at the beginning of the year. Again, they couldn't spell the words of the companies that I was trying to work with, so very, very underwhelming. So a few months later, I've started working on prompt engineering and how to harness the power of ChatGPT in order to create prompts for another program called Midjourney. And finally, I started seeing something that was sort of photorealistic that I could use in some aspects in the work to explain either websites or brochure or some sales material. And then I thought to myself, okay, let's continue to push the envelope and see what happens. So then I've started prompting more with the idea of using photographers that I loved and the cameras that they use or that I've used in the past, and recreating that sort of effect. And I got more and more into the prompt engineering side of things. This was a joke that I did on my mom. I created this meteorite over Vatican City and sent her a picture in the morning while she lives in Rome. And I said, have you read the news? And she was obviously fooled in the very first couple of seconds, and then you realize that the surroundings of the Vaticans are not exactly the same. It's probably not a real picture, but it does fool you for a bit. So this is, again, from me in my office living room, creating something that potentially could go viral. Can it do painting? So I started analyzing what generative text to image could bring. And this is a pre-Raphaelite picture by Millet, Sir John Everett Millet, which I love very much. And I said, let's try to put some prompts in ChatGPT and see what comes up. And this is, you know, an artistic representation of what Ophelia could be like in a modern day version with the similar style. So again, blown away by the rendering, the capacity to create out of nothing with a similar style. Does it do other styles of painting? Sure does, like Artemisia Gentileschi in this instance, and how to recreate her style to follow US Congress revolts. And then I thought, well, does it do underwater photography? Does it do photojournalism in the style of some photojournalists that I loved and admired over the years? And it certainly can. And more and more and more so, just by inputting very specific prompts with very specific keywords, the type of lenses used, and so on and so forth. Obviously, having that background made it easier to do the prompts, but it's now so much easier also that you can bypass that, and even not having a photography background, you can achieve amazing results. This, for example, is a photo shoot that I concocted out of thin air for obviously an acupuncturist studio. Although I thought these were amazing, we had a full photo shoot, but then we presented to the doctor, she said that obviously the needles were not in the right place, and so they weren't usable. But it's a very compelling stock photography, let's put it that way. And it can do logos. So I did this a couple of days ago, and although interim is not spelled exactly perfectly, it does do logos, and it can be used for other purposes. And then I want to show you this software that just literally was released, I think, a couple of weeks ago, called Logo Diffusion. And what it does is that you can basically sketch on whatever you have, an iPad or your computer, and transform that into a 2D or a 3D image and a vector. So basically, even a kid can now create vector images or logos or whatever they want in a matter of seconds. So you're going to probably be wondering, okay, this is great as an artist and as a creator, but how does it benefit me as a manager? And again, I would like for you to just for a second put your hat on as a creative and go, okay, I can use these means to really think of the subject matter in a completely different way and take a left of field approach. As Emad Mustak rightly says, from the founder of Stability AI, says it's not the AI that will take my job away, it's the worker that uses AI that will take my job. This is obviously in this interim phase that goes from where we are right now to the part that we're going to explore in a few seconds. So in this graph, we can see the workers that are using AI versus the non-use of AI, and you can see that there's almost a 20% increase in their work proficiency. So this is incredible already as initial statistics. Now, I wanted to show you a lot of examples of what I use on a daily basis, but there's not really a lot of time to go in depth. So I thought I would use this beautiful Microsoft Copilot presentation, and Copilot is their AI assistant that basically will live in all of the Microsoft ecosystem. It's not readily available unless you're a Microsoft E3 Enterprise, but it will come very soon to all of our screen if you use Windows and even Mac, I believe. So I'm just going to show you this. And again, I'm not endorsed by any of these companies. I don't benefit from all, but I just wanted to give you a possibility of what is possible and how you can speed up your processes. So this is, for example, a presentation in PowerPoint, a particular subject, and in really seconds, an Excel spreadsheet Yeah, there you go.
Alan, we're losing you because the quality of the bandwidth of the transmission doesn't seem to be as good.
Is that better?
So can you,
I think it was better.
is it improving now?
He needs to share the sound from his computer.
You may need to share the sound from your computer because we're not hearing any sound from the video.
Sorry, it was probably hard to talk over the music here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so what I wanted to say is that Microsoft, in particular, as an enterprise solution company, is focusing on solutions that utilize their whole ecosystem, whether it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Entourage, whatever you're used to, Outlook, and will integrate AI in all of their programs and all of their ecosystems, including their browser, Edge, and so on and so forth. So the ability to ask questions or to generate content as you go along and are working will be almost a seamless integration. Google does exactly the same thing with Duet AI, which again was released just a few weeks ago. It's been, look, all these companies have been in the works forever, and I think the fact that ChatGPT released, OpenAI released ChatGPT last year spurred them all to come to the table with products that are useful and important for enterprise. So, for example, in this Excel spreadsheet, the question is, agenda for one-day executive briefing event with session descriptions and status. So this will obviously pull information from your Google Calendar if you're connected to it and create a spreadsheet with all of your duration, the description, session title, and so on and so forth. Another thing you can do in Google Meet now is change your backgrounds as you do in Microsoft Teams. But not only that, you can tell it what type of background you want, and it will create 3 or 4 options on the fly that you can then utilize in case you need to showcase that to a particular client or somebody. Lastly, here it's a Word or similar, writing a proposal, a custom proposal on manufacturing, and the iterations are incredibly fast, and they're ready to go into Google's version of Word, which I can't remember what it's called, Google Docs. And so preparing a document in a matter of seconds. So really, it's like using an exoskeleton to do manual tasks. This gives you sort of the ability to add in your regular workflow such as speed of interaction and results. A couple of programs that I use quite often are either Nota or Otter. They're both transcription-based AIs that you can summon, and you can ask them to go into your meetings and record the whole conversations between the parties, summarize it for the event, and then you can share it with all of your team. I believe Microsoft Copilot will do the same thing, and so will Google Hangouts. Additionally, obviously I've been experimenting a lot with text to photo. This photo I generated yesterday as an homage to you guys. I believe this is the Belém Tower, if I'm not mistaken, in the background.
Well, it's a little bit different. It's like the Belém Tower, it's somewhere in Venice.
Oh, okay. Anyway, what you can do is generate this image out of a prompt and then turn it into a little video that you can send out to your customer with using a solution like, in this case, DID. So let me show you.
What does an interim manager change a light bulb? They don't. They just realign the office to the new dimmer strategy.
So these are basic level generative AI in video, and they're the worst that they are ever going to be. They're only going to get better and better and better in their iteration. But already this image to me, although the background is probably wrong, is of a photographic quality that can be used to fool anybody. Right now in my company, we are working hard to develop a chatbot that will have access to, obviously the main brain will be the LLM, so the large language model. But what is difficult to do for any company at the moment is to add to that LLM some proprietary data, meaning, company data that you don't want to necessarily divulge or share in a public LLM. So we're working to create addendums to the LLM that are proprietary, that are password protected, but that can be summoned from the chatbot to answer. So, and in that way, you can then create a digital avatar that will respond to particular questions either on a website or at a conference in your language, knowing your data and all this information. So I'm gonna attempt to try to use this chat. And you can either verbally ask the question, or you can type it in. For these purposes, we'll just type in, I don't know.
The most famous monument in Portugal is the Belm Tower, a stunning fortress located in Lisbon, known for its intricate manuline architecture.
So the latency of this bot is a little bit longer than we want, but if you think that this information goes to so many different computers and processes and LLMs to give you the response, it's already an incredible feat. On top of that, if you can add your own proprietary LLM, or small LM, so a small language model, so your own proprietary data, this becomes a very valuable tool to put pretty much anywhere where you're having a discussion or a communication with customers or third parties. So I just wanted to, and this is a company called DID, obviously. So again, it's not merely a collection of software tools, but it's important to be aware of their availability for their use. So moving more significantly, it's really an attitude of moving beyond your traditional methods of actively seeking, embracing, and innovatively utilizing what's new. Again, having a child's-like attitude. Should I study programming then? That's what my kids are also asking me. And the answer I give them is what Emma just said in this video.
There are no programmers in 5 years. Wow. I think we always have to look at the unchanging versus the inevitable. So an inevitable is 41% of all code on GitHub right now is AI generated. ChatGPT can pass a GLUE level 3 programmer exam and it will run pretty much on a MacBook or a
and that's this year.
This year, right now.
Yeah. So those of you with kids who you're having Python lessons and so forth, maybe it's instead helping them to understand how to ask great questions or give great directions or prompts.
There are no programmers in 5 years.
So really everything is changing. Also as a university, I think the challenges are enormous on how to, teach new students AI and things like that. A lot of this information is obviously widely available online, but the structure that a university can give, I guess it's still very valuable. Obviously, AI has a dark side, and we go into territories where there's going to be a lot of deep fake. The upcoming presidential elections are going to be very interesting to watch, just because there's so much non-information given out. I'm just going to play you this little short video with, again,
technologie et de découvrir le nouvel avenir que nous allons tous bâtir ensemble.
So this is what you're playing.
Well, it's societal revolution y hará el mundo de muchas maneras. Y estamos felices de empezar a trabajar en algo que les permitirá a todos ustedes construir tanto para todos nosotros. 我们之前讨论过，如果为人们提供更好的工具，他们就可以改变世界。We believe that AI will be about individual empowerment and agency at a scale that we've never seen before, and that will elevate humanity to a scale that we've never seen before either. À mesure que le renseignement sera intégré partout, nous disposerons tous de super pouvoirs à la demande. Nous sommes impatients de voir ce que vous ferez tous avec cette technologie et de découvrir le nouvel avenir que nous allons tous bâtir ensemble.
Okay, so this video I'm just showing you to demonstrate that you can alter a video and keep the lip syncing absolutely perfect and change the discourse in many languages and whatever you prefer. So you can reach potentially an enormous audience, but it also can be used against you to let you say things that you don't want to. Again, I'm not going to go in this side of things because there's plenty of information online on that. So what about music, for example? I come from a music background. My dad was a music producer, and I saw firsthand and experienced how difficult it is to put a song together, let alone an album, and go on tour and do all these things. I've used this app called Suno for the first time last week, and I was just amazed by the responsiveness and what you can get out of just a single string of words, as a little sentence. I hope you will be able to hear this, but I gave them a prompt to create a song about interim management in a jazz trip-hop style. So a very complicated prompt for any musician, really, because the words interim management don't really rhyme that well with anything. And it came out with this in a matter of 2 minutes. It gave me 2 versions in 2 minutes. I'll let you hear one, and I'll put the lyrics on top so you can have a look.
The rhythm flows so free. Interim management, a tale of victory. From the shadows they emerge with a plan in hand. Oh yeah, guide enough to chaos like a jazz band, sipping cocktails. We unwind as the beats of burn intertwine into reminders, rising full. I bring water to this funky groove. Feel the vibe that you'll see. Oh yeah, in this open bar, finding a peace. So still clumsy, still, you know, we can criticize it as much as you want, but in 2 minutes to come up with a full verse, chorus, half song is truly remarkable. And I've tried this with every style. I'm not going to bore you with you know, the hip hop version or the rock version of this and that, but it just personally mind blowing. And again, it could be used as an inspiration to create a song for a musician and to then develop his core abilities in a new and exciting way. It doesn't necessarily need to replace music. I found this other video that I'd like to show you, because although we are used with sampling in music and how to use, you know, your voice to do other instruments, I thought that this was an immediate alteration in how to create music again, or sounds more than music, in a very, very peculiar way.
We're not getting any sound.
So again, this is app called Musicify, and it creates usable, high quality sounds out of just voice. So again, to me, this stuff is mind blowing, considering that we would have to spend many, many days in a recording studio to get that kind of quality and that. I don't know if you can you hear the sound okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we've done voice, we've done photographs, we've done you know, a lot of synesthetic sort of arts, but what about movies? Can we do movies with AI? And the answer is absolutely yes. This is one trailer that I saw from a very brilliant guy on YouTube, and I'd like to show you a little snippet of it. So these are some of the things that are currently available. So that's why I was saying it's an amazing, exciting future, and it's exciting present, really, of all the things you can do on a creative side, on a business side. So I put down here a couple of points of where I think interim management can benefit from AI. And as a manager that comes in and into a company, I think finding a cost-effective solution that will help drive the company forward through change is vital. And also implementing those strategies, those AI strategies, with a proper target training and upskilling of all the companies that you're going to be working with. It's very hard to change a mindset, but if you can show that their productivity can skyrocket and then maybe they can work more efficiently and less hours, I think that is a great incentive to start. Obviously, bringing external perspective for objective and effective transition management is incredibly important. And also having a dedicated person within your organization that understands AI and keeps on the pulse of what's going on, because things are changing so fast and so radically, you know, at any minute, that is really, really hard to, if you're doing other things, to concentrate on what are the best tools to use in a particular instance. So those are some of the key points. Artificial intelligence will reshape the future of interim management and of management in general. So it is vital to be a part of it, period. I think this is unquestionable. So if you will indulge me, I'll take a little bit more of your time and I'll show you what the future holds, at least in my perspective, and what I think where we're heading towards. So funnily enough, I saw this interview with King Charles, was it 2 weeks ago at the London Summit, and he said something similar to Sundar Pichai at the beginning of this presentation, which is AI has the potential to transform life as we know it, from curing diseases, achieving clean energy, but we also must address its significant risks. This is not a quote verbatim, but it's I condensed it a bit. But it was extremely interesting to me that both the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the digital space and a monarch share a similar view and are aware of the threats that lie ahead and warn us both of the same dangers. And so we'll dive a little bit into these aspects. So at the moment, and this is, I know that I put this in the future, but reality is at present, AI can diagnose type 2 diabetes in 10 seconds just by hearing your voice. So by analyzing the patterns of your voice and your algorithm, they can detect, different types of diseases. Meta is working on very, very innovative and revolutionary thing, which is decoding brain waves to gather image from brain activity. So this blew me away. I'll show you in a second what they have shown as their presentation. So on one side, you will see what the patient is looking at, and on the other side, you will see what the perceived image the AI gets from its brain waves. So again, on the left side and the right side. Images are slightly off, but ridiculously close in certain instances. And this means that, they basically can read inside your mind. And it's a very scary theory. It's a very scary reality. One other thing I wanted to say is that the highest IQ that AI has ever recorded on an IQ test is 114, which was achieved by Bing in 2023. There's a lot of people that say that IQ scores are not meant for artificial intelligence, are meant for human beings, and that we're lacking a whole lot of other elements. But let's just take this just to create an example. Let's say that the human average IQ is 100. So the AI at present is slightly above human average, and the men's entry level is 160. So, or let's say Albert Einstein was supposedly having an IQ of from 160 to 190. Again, speculations. They're not super scientific details, but I just want to share with you these data to create this example. If AI only reaches human level intelligence, so stays at this level for the foreseeable future, but the processing becomes incredibly a lot faster month after month, which is happening compared to the slow linear growth of human intelligence, it means that AI could achieve in a single year what would take humans 2,000 years or more. And this statement is true in both ways, that AI is not only processing a lot faster than human beings, but it's also increasing in human-like intelligence. So if I had to put this on a chart, and I did with ChatGPT, thankfully, so we can have the number of calculations on the y-axis and the months on the right axis, on the x-axis, you'll see that our linear growth is always consistent and constant. And it has been like that since ever. Human beings are very good at linear thinking. They're very bad at exponential thinking because it just doesn't belong to us. It's not part of our DNA. But it means that in a year or 2 or 3 or 5, we're going to have a complete different scenario than what we have right now. So I just wanted to talk about briefly these big concepts that are artificial general intelligence, which is basically it marks the era where machines reach human-like intelligence across a broad range of cognitive tasks. So they're not just restricted to a single task like AI does now. So it's better at playing chess, and it's better at writing a novel or individual things. But AGI will be pretty much across the board better than any human beings, and so indistinguishable or probably worse. Sorry. So incredibly important moment. And we've been on the in the cyber sphere, the world is abuzz with the fact that OpenAI has reached AGI internally with Q star and A star. Like I don't really follow much the speculations, because until it happens, then we'll know. But what it means for us is that it will be a moment where technology will reason, will be problem solving, will have perception and language understanding better than what we can. It doesn't end here. So shortly after, and I have this obviously meme with Harrison Ford in Blade Runner asking if he's a robot or not. The next following stage of evolution for all of us will be artificial superintelligence. And it's a stage where machines far exceed human intelligence in all aspects. So effectively creating a demigod or a demiurge. And the moment between AGI and ASI is extremely short, because when machines coalesce together and use supercomputing, possibly quantum computing, and speed up their processes, we're going to have ASI in a matter of months and not years. So this is extremely bewildering in a way. So again, ASI will be potential to invent new technologies, solve complex problems, and even manipulate human biology through 3D printing, genetic modifications. The list of things is endless. There is a gentleman on in California called Brian Johnson that has developed this method of trying to live forever. So it's defeating death, and by putting markers on his body and analyzing every single aspect of his genetic code and so on and so forth. And he created this protocol called the Blueprint, which he shares openly and freely to the wider world. The essence of his reasoning, though, that I didn't understand until very recently, is that he thinks that by keeping well, fit, and alive for the next 10 to 20, 30 years, he is going to be able to then use AI to reverse his aging and effectively live forever. So I just wanted to put out there, because I didn't understand at the beginning why he was doing all this effort. Next stage after ASI is singularity, or what Ray Kurzweil has defined singularity, or a pivotal transformative moment in human history, driven by the exponential growth of technology, potentially brought about after AGI and ASI, and leading to changes beyond our current understanding. So this is a point of no return, I guess, when technology becomes so sophisticated and so pervasive in both the software side of things, which is, as we all know, generative AI or things like that, but also on robotics and nanotechnology and genome sequencing. So all of these things combined will bring about a complete new world. So from here, there are really only two potential outcomes that I can figure out. And one is a techno dystopia in which this overlord, technological overlord, rules us and enslaves us, or potentially even kills us all. And there's a couple of conundrums or quandaries that are widely available online. I'm not going to delve because we don't have time, but the pay-per-click maximizer and Roko's basilisks are two very good examples of where this technological dystopia could go on. The other one is a peace millennium, or 1,000 years or more of this golden age where everything is possible and we can solve everything. So I obviously would like to see, I think everybody would, the ushering of this new peace millennium. And in the dark side, there's also a transhumanist agenda, which we probably don't have time to talk about right now, but it's basically saying that if we, as a carbon-based human beings, if we input some silicon and if we are connected to this super intelligence, then we become sort of a super intelligence ourselves. Although we are then in a beehive mentality where a super intelligence thinks of something and we execute sort of like a beehive. So I'm not going to go into this transhumanist agenda, but it's interesting to see that if you follow this path and you think that we are creating a God that will be all pervasive and a malignant God per se, or even potentially a benign one, but the next possible thought is to create a church of AI, which indeed exists by this gentleman called Anthony Lewandowski. And it's interesting to see that people are already typing their prompts in a different way to please a potential God that will surface in the future. So that's called it's like a not pre-crime, but pre-commitment. So I found that extremely interesting. So what does 1,000 years of peace look like? And it's a foreign concept for everybody, but I've tried to end this presentation with my view of what it could potentially be. So I've used, again, Leonardo AI in this case to create this poster that represents a bit of what our monotheistic religions might see as 1,000 years of peace. In Abrahamic religions, all of them, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, refer to a future period of Earth where there's a messianic figure, whether it's the Messiah or the Mahdi, and that will reign and bring universal peace and brotherhood without any evil. Now, I don't want to get into an eschatology of religion, but it's striking to me that we're at the point where we could potentially create a super intelligence that will help us do all these things. And I was having a chat with a friend late at night, and I've explained all this, and he says, well, if AI solves all the problems of the world and we have peace and good living for all, the world is not ready for this. They wouldn't want it. We are not ready. And so it made me think really that yes, if this amazing scenario is coming upon us, are we indeed ready? Are we ready to embrace it? So I've created one last slide for you, and it's a trailer that I created just in the past couple of days because I wanted to close with my interpretation of what this period might look like. And I hope you will enjoy it. It's only 1 minute long, so I will conclude my presentation after this.
With the benevolent force overseeing us, humanity will finally be able to communicate with nature, understand its plight, and learn to live in harmony with each other and with all creation. We will eradicate diseases and live in abundance. We will conquer the depths of our ocean, and one day decide to leave Earth, becoming an interplanetary species. We will explore the edges of our galaxy and beyond, making home so far away that our tiny Earth will become a distant memory. And eventually, even that memory will fade. Like in Asimov's foundation, we will forget our origins, and Earth will turn into a mythological planet, unrecognizable and lost to time. We will build cities on an abandoned planet, then a few pyramids, standing as a symbol of our progress. And then we will start all over again.
And that's it. Hello?
Alan, I think the audience took a little while because they were waiting for more, but to be open about this, we're a little late on the agenda. If you'd like to stay for a couple of questions after the coffee break, that would be wonderful. Okay?
Sure. Okay.
So we'll meet in say 10 to 15, let's put it more precise, 10 minutes for coffee, and then we'll get back to the session, okay? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Coffee break, if we could. Enerji, wat gebrek aan energie.
Fazer as verificações de micros agora. Parece que saber. Sim, quer dizer, mas nós voltamos. Pode ser daqui a 5 minutos. Foi com o PP primeiro. Chegamos ao PP, foi voltando. Nós vamos ter micros de lapela ou vamos ter micros? Micros de lapela. Então não é de mão. Não. Era de mão, a gente está caixa de mão, mas é este mão. Devem estar enviados porque está a dar sobre 50 condições. Speakers, sono di un scempino, sono.
Portanto, eu realmente ao escritório, não trabalho com nenhum aço, e depois são todas formas e isso.
Ao escritório aqui, em Portugal.
Exato, ao escritório.
Então é uma expatriada?
Expatriada.
Tem um contrato internacional ou tem um contrato? Ah,
Trabalho. Nós somos
a vizinha mesmo, mas eu não sei se a gente vai entrar já.
Ah, é? Ok.
Porque com esta coisa do Rui dizer, se a audiência quiser colocar comigo, eu não sei se. Pois, se calhar vamos ter que pode ver ali, porque ali é difícil, não é? Ali só se não.
Devemos voltar isto um bocadinho, não é? Porque as pessoas veem este, não precisam de ter não é?
30 minutes to go. Então ainda temos muito tempo. Pensei que era 10 minutos. Ainda temos isto ou não? Isto funciona? Não sei se isto é isto.
Acho que não.
Isto é o quê? Não tem, não é nada.
Eu vou pôr aqui em cima.
Está bem. Obrigado.
Virem os copos. Eu não sei, estes copos não são vossos.
Este é meu, sim, e este é o da Joana, sim.
Ok. Então vamos pôr assim. Pronto. Isto também dizer que iam ser garrafas de vidro, mas pronto, assim ninguém. Está resolvido.
Não, eu vou guardar só. Não, deixa estar.
No cantinho da sala. Tivemos uma introdução que, enfim, acho que foi infinitamente infinito.
Acho que tinha de ser, para abrir isso, tinha de ser assim. Agora trazer as coisas mais para a terra.
Sim, down to earth.
Mas para abrir, acho que tinha que ser assim. Coisas estas que chocaram. Foi muito impressionante. Que é inteligência artificial vai tomar conta disto. E mais rápido. Vai dar aqui. Pronto. Vou pedir. Vou fazer aquela apresentação, sim. Apresentação, sim. Ok, sim. Tem um background e não faz nada. Para entrarem? Sim, eu não percebi. Nós vamos já para ali ou não? Ou é melhor esperar que se há perguntas para o...
Eu posso colocar uma outra pergunta, ó. Depende da audiência. Se há...
Na realidade, apropriámos-nos já da mesa com os copos mas não nos sentámos e não temos ainda outras coisas. Não sei quais
perguntar se a audiência tiver uma outra pergunta, mas eu acho que podem estar já sentados.
Ok. Então, não só começar a Regi. Quem é a Regi?
Eu estou
o Paulo.
É o Paulo, somos todos.
Está bem. Então vá, se a Regi vier cá, fazemos questão para garantir que os que estão lá em casa resolvem. E eles aonde apareceram ali? Só apareceu assim. Apareceu assim. É diferente. Acho que é. E fez muito bem. Não. Eu sou. Isso. Acho que É uma questão de respeito. Querer entrar agora e dizer agora é uma questão de respeito. Vamos ver como é que isto vai correr. Temos que fazer um bocadinho de ginástica. Mas o que quer ficar ali? Acabamos? Para eu tentar ver o.
Ah, exato.
Escolhemos as azuis, não sei porquê, mas pronto.
Mais muitas, não é?
Este é um pouco. Isto vai ser aqui. Já deve estar aqui agora para trás, para aí, não? A gente era às 10h30? Era para às 10h30, então?
Sim, 45, 46. Não é mau, não é mau.
Então, Regi, é o senhor? Regi.
Vai ser, não é?
Quer dizer, eu passo a aula, acho que não precisamos disso. É os outros. Quem está em casa. Isso. Ok. Faz aí a manobra. Por defeito, minutos. Como é que fazemos aqui um check? Só um check. Dois.
Muito bem, 1, 2.
Obrigado.
Está bom, não está. Não está bom.
Mas isso tem que ser muito direito. Nós estamos a fazer a função para a esquerda. A esquerda é não? Só a direita. 2.
Então, bem-vindos de volta. Vamos passar ao primeiro painel. Eu tentei entrar em contato com o Alan, mas pelos vistos ele provavelmente não está. Vamos ter um painel que fala um pouco sobre este tema da transformação organizacional e o impacto também ou o papel e o impacto da inteligência artificial na transformação organizacional. O painel será moderado pelo CEO da Experience Management e teremos remotamente e localmente tanto a Joana Santos, o Adam Matias e a Marisa Borstrom. E eu passo a palavra ao Mário. Obrigado.
Está? Está ligado? Sim? Está ligado? Está ligado. Ok, obrigado. Vamos fazer isto em inglês, certo? O Rui agora teve em português, mas suponho que como o Adam está.
Yes, let's do it in English.
Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
But you can follow Portuguese, Adam. We realize that.
pouco, sim.
Okay. So let's get started. My name is Mario Fernandes, and I'm going to be here during about 1 hour to moderate this panel, where we have 3 persons. That will be introduced in a minute. I will ask them to introduce themselves in order to explain basically the CV experience, background, what are you doing, and mainly the reasons why you are passionate about this subject that we are going to discuss here. So, having said that, we go straight to the point. I will ask first Joanna, if the others don't mind, to introduce yourself. Can you please say a few words to the audience?
Happy to. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Joanna Sanch. I am a data science lead at Microsoft, and I work with customers across multiple industries, normally to do one of two things, either to help them solve a problem or to implement a vision using AI technologies. I've been with Microsoft for 7 years, and prior to that, I was an astrophysicist. So it may look like, kind of a wild jump from physics to data science, but actually, I think physicists are, one of the first data scientists in the industry. So I worked at the European Space Agency, the European Southern Observatory, a lot of European-focused European organizations for over 10 years, and now here I am working in a very pragmatic field. And so why am I passionate about artificial intelligence and data science? So I'm very curious. I trained in theoretical physics, so I think that already tells you a little bit about my, curiosity. And I like the very practical focus of these AI solutions that we deliver. It's really to empower customers, to empower people, and you see the benefit of these solutions very quickly. It's very immediate. So that's really, the main focus for me right now. It's this practical emphasis of AI.
Thank you so much. Marisa, the word over to you.
Good morning, all, and thank you for having me. I have something in common with Joanna. I love physicists, and currently I'm very happy to be part of a task force on quantum computing and cybersecurity, where I'm one of the only lawyers in the room. But since I was a little child, I used to devour any content related to science, technology, and in particular physics. But I did become a lawyer, so that went a big shift. So Joanna, we have that in common as well. So and I think in law, what also made me passionate about all that we're discussing is actually the practicality, but imagining new ways of doing things. In my own role of legal manager in a point in time, and as interim, I saw that I could bring different ways of solving problems, and that for me it's very it's what draws me to this topic. And in Portugal, I did create the Portuguese Institute for Legal Innovation and Technology in Nova Legal. So I've been closely working also with all these topics, and more recently, as vice president of the European Legal Tech Association, we've been focusing in generative AI and how can, of course, AI is a power or not for the legal sector in particular.
Thank you so much, Marisa, for your introduction. Now over to you, Adam.
Well, hello. First of all, thank you so much for letting me contribute. My background is a little bit different. Originally, I actually worked in banking, and I was a corporate trainer for many, many years. I will be the first to admit that I am not an expert in AI, like everybody else seems to be. I would call myself more of a very curious amateur. With myself, these days, I am predominantly focused on how AI can be used in the fields of training and teaching. I'm more interested in how AI can complement the workforce rather than use it, and how we can develop more of a, how would I say, a symbiotic relationship with AI rather than exclusivity. These days, I like to look into training, and I work a lot with universities and academic institutions on how AI can be used to improve critical thinking and blended learning. The biggest draws for me are cognitive augmentation and NLP. I'm working a lot on applications at the moment on how they can improve language models, which are graded towards different levels of language intelligence. For example, a model which can adjust itself according to the user. You have an international bank who wishes to talk to non-native speakers. Under a few seconds of basic communication, it can grade its language according to the user. So that's my interest in AI.
Okay, thank you so much. Even if you don't consider yourself a professional on AI, I'm sure that from your angle, from your window, we are going to get important contribution to this panel. So let's get started. And if you don't mind, I will start with Joanna. I've prepared a few questions, and we are going to start with Joanna here. Joanna, don't forget that the subject that we are supposed to discuss here in the panel is the role of AI in transforming organizational management. But this is under the umbrella of the conference, which is Interim Management in the Age of AI. So let's try to focus on our subject, the subject that we are supposed to talk, but not forgetting that this umbrella, Interim Management in the Age of AI, is the subject of the conference. So we will try in our panel to contribute to this discussion. So, Joanna, AI has the potential to transform organizational management by improving efficiency, productivity, and decision-making. Starting with decision-making, how can we leverage AI for decision-making in complex projects?
So the data-driven decision-making, I think, is one of the main buzzwords that we're going to hear. So when you have data and appropriate models that help you make sense of vast amounts of information, that can really speed up, your understanding of your business, and you can create predictive models that can help you forecast, what is to come. So that is, I think, an important angle. I think that also for businesses that have the need for real-time information, having the tools to process information in real time really allows businesses, senior managers, to quickly adjust, adapt. Can you hear me well? Okay, nice. To quickly, okay. Now I have 2 microphones. To quickly adapt, to what is going on. So real-time insights, I think, are super critical. And another, let's say, tool that I really like, and I think it was one of the questions that I heard most often this year by customers, by business stakeholders, is how can we do what-if scenarios, And this is where AI can really help you do that in a way that is simple, and, you don't have to have physics-driven simulations or, biological simulations, whatever your scenario is. You can create data-driven or data-informed simulations, toy models, for example, that allow you to create multiple scenarios that allow you to explore the parameter space of, what you're investigating. And so that can be really eye-opening for you to understand, not just, your current problem, but to innovate. What if I use parameters with values that I had never explored before? So these are some of the ways that I think AI can, really help you, interim managers, senior business leaders, to take decisions, in a data-driven, informed way.
Is that what you are doing on a daily basis in your real life, working with complex projects and getting AI to improve efficiency?
Absolutely, yes. And so I know there's a lot of focus on LLMs and generative AI, and I am currently working on that, so we can talk a little bit about that. But traditional machine learning, traditional AI scenarios like predictive maintenance are super critical, and they increase efficiency very much for many customers in, for example, manufacturing industries, energy sector, and so forth. So let's not forget that we have these tools and they are super important, and that actually LLMs, they're not able to do these, predictive maintenance, for example, types of models as accurately as, the dedicated specific models that you have. And so how do I work with customers? So I work with customers across all industries, and I use a process called the team data science process. There are a number of, methodologies that allow you to structure a data science or an AI type of project, because there's a specificity to this. There's a lot of ambiguity. And so having a process that is iterative, that has, 4 specific pillars can help mitigate, all this fear of, ambiguity and uncertainty. And so we start with business understanding. So I'm not going to go through the whole process, but business understanding, I think, that's where senior leaders are definitely very much involved. And so in the business understanding phase, what we want to understand is, what is your problem? What are the pain points? Tell us about this. Or what is the vision that you want to implement? What do you want to create? And so we start walking through their current status. What do you have? What are your high-level objectives? How does your vision for this engagement, how does it align with your overall business strategy? That is super important. And then we start to flesh it out. Okay, KPIs, success criteria, cost and efficiency trade-off. I mean, that's a very important and decisive factor. And ultimately, excuse me, how is this going to be used? Who are the users, the personas? How are these insights going to be consumed and acted on? So this is, this is business understanding, phase 1.
Okay, thank you. Now over to you, Marisa. Still talking about efficiency in terms of organizations, but can you give us your perspective about how can AI be effectively integrated into corporate governance to enhance transparency and efficiency organization?
I think I would like to bring to the table maybe something that more than what can bring is what many are thinking, that in Europe in particular, contrary to maybe other places in the globe, we have very small structures. So we have many small, medium, and micro companies. So actually what myself and some other colleagues, namely in the Chamber of Commerce, are puzzled is how can we enhance the capacity that we're seeing that the big companies can reach, because they have everything. They have the infrastructure, they have the financial capacity, meaning they can bring talent or they can train talent. And how can we then leverage a little bit with the landscape that it's not full of big multinationals? So I think Joanna, in a way, summarized quite well what we can bring on board. And it's almost like a metaphor. It's like you have a beautiful Ferrari, right? Who doesn't want to have a beautiful Ferrari? I want to have a Ferrari. You want to have a Ferrari. But then someone puts you a Ferrari and in the streets of the Netherlands, and you cannot, first of all, you cannot go above 50 because you have a fine. But then all the infrastructure of Ferrari, you don't have a team to deal with Ferrari. It's like, so you have beautiful tools, but then everything else, it's not there. So, and I think also the interim management maybe power will be this nexus of thinking that goes even, I think we go even almost to redefine the role of what interim managers are, because they used to be something. They used to be the big brains with a lot of experience. They would come, they would know, they have fresh eyes, But now, and I love the comment of Adam, because I did it and publicly, and people look at me like, it's so easy now to hear the word expert and specialist. I don't think anybody, if they are humble enough, they know what they are talking about, because the ones who really dive deep in these matters, they know first, they still need to understand the technology per se. I've been trying. That's why I'm surrounded by everybody, data analysts, computer scientists, and I do a huge effort to understand, the mechanics of it all. So we are in a pivotal moment also of humbleness. And what you see on the other side is a huge offer in the market. Of course, then the marketing is magnificent, as marketing always is, right? You need to have this. You need to be the best. And then you have the business people, especially in Europe, that is my speciality, saying, why? And we, on top of this, we have some conferences. I need to share this also for the people in the room that maybe are concerned with all this language. And there was a conference that an organization did, and the topic was AI. But the other topic, it was nothing to do with AI. And then I was in a room full of colleagues, because it was in the world of law, and those colleagues knew so well their business, but their business didn't have any element of AI. And then they were like, but how can we talk about it? And of course, I suggested that we went into the role of what if. But the hype is so pressuring everybody that nobody has the courage to say, I don't really know where I'm going. I don't know if this is for my company. And if we're talking about understanding business, understand the landscape of business. And in Europe in particular, with this landscape of family-owned companies, of businesses that are, some of them tailor-made, almost like, we need to have the courage to say we're not yet there, and nobody's thinking of catering for these companies because they don't bring the big bucks. So that is my concern at the moment, is to also talk with other colleagues, honest conversations, and we keep learning ourselves, right? And we have these spaces where a person like Adam and Joanna and all of us can have the beyond marketing conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Marisa. Now over to you, Adam. In your opinion, what role does transparency play in ensuring ethical AI practices? And how can it be achieved?
Oh my goodness. Well, on first glance, I thought that was a tremendously easy question, but it's not, as you're probably aware yourself. I think that stems from what is your personal definition of transparency, and what is your definition of AI. And I think what Marisa said is absolutely correct. It depends on your perspective and where you're coming from originally. Let me give you my very, very limited understanding. I think when it comes to AI, what do you consider it to be? Is it, and what do they call it, an existential threat? Or is it mainly a tool? Human nature is that we are inherently afraid of what we don't understand. And when it comes to AI, I do believe that most people have images of Arnold Schwarzenegger walking into a room, shooting everybody dead, Skynet taking over the world. And you would be surprised how many people have the same kind of sci-fi image of AI going on in their head. So, and also most people, if you say AI, they automatically confuse it with AGI. They think like, you know, every day we use Google, we use Siri, we use Alexa. These are narrow forms of AI. But when we're looking at AGI and what Alan said earlier about it only having the intelligence of an average human being, people don't realize that companies like QStar, as you said a minute ago, aren't quite there yet. I mean, if you talk about all of the development that's happened recently, it's still, a lot of it is still theoretical and it isn't in the mainstream yet. And I would be very surprised if it's released into the wild without certain levels of safeguarding. Okay, so let me get back on. So anyway, so we're talking about what is your definition of AI. And then we need to talk about what is transparency. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've broken it down into 3 different levels where we're talking about transparency. Firstly, we're talking about the inner workings of the application. We're talking about the language models, we're talking about the algorithm and whether they are accessible to most people. And then I think a lot depends on the transparency of the company. Most people, if you say OpenAI, they think, yeah, it's a wonderful non-profit organization that's trying to do the good for humanity. But in reality, most people don't realize it's actually split into 2. We have the profit and we have the non-profit. And as Alan was alluding to earlier, all of the wonderful fun and games that happened in OpenAI over the last couple of weeks was a lot to do with the profit side of OpenAI and not the non-profit. And also, I think the other area which we need to look into is when we're talking about the transparency of the data. We're looking at the biases. We're looking at the scraping. We're looking at the sources. So it's not just a matter how well are we looking into the transparency of the process. We need to look into the 3 transparencies in each area. So what do you feel about that? Do you agree or am I completely off kilter there?
100%.
Oh, fantastic. But then again, if we're thinking about how can we improve transparency, then I think it's down to the key fundamentals. And I think it's down to verification, verifying your sources, and then checking for errors. But I think that depends a lot on the model you're using and the purpose of the model and how readily available the information you're acquiring is. And then I think some kind of feedback loop, monitor the performance as well, and then evaluating the impact on how well you've used the platform. And then I would say some kind of, what's it called, red teaming or updating and then correcting as needed, I think. I was reading, I'm going to give you a quote here. I found, who was it? It was Deloitte. Deloitte came up with a wonderful, wonderful, how can I say this, comment. They said, transparent AI makes our understanding values explicit and encourages companies to take responsibility for AI-based decisions. Responsible AI is AI that has all of the ethical considerations in place and is aligned with the core principles of the company. I think that says it perfectly, really, on how it's not based purely on the process, but it's based on how well it is used and by who.
Thank you, Adam, for your answer. I think that Joanna wants to have something.
Yeah, so those are really awesome comments. You can hear me well, right? Yes. Okay, good. They're so interesting, and I work a lot in, the implementation of, well, actually the assessment of responsible AI in my very down-to-earth engagements, okay, with customers. And responsible AI is super important. We have an impact assessment that we use throughout the life cycle of these engagements. So we start with a proof of concept, maybe we go to an MVP, then we put a system in production. And so at every stage, you really have to go and revisit all these points in this impact assessment that cover many of the things that you mentioned. And, it's funny that now with LLMs, one of the key points around transparency is I need to know that this co-pilot, is AI generated. This is not coming from a person. So it's something, very simple, but complementary to what you said. And also wanted to make a note on evaluation. That is a huge topic. I'm working a lot on that. Evaluation is not so complicated for traditional machine learning systems. For LLMs, it's incredibly hard. And I think there's no unique approach for this. How are we going to do this? different use cases that may seem similar require different metrics. And so this is really, for me, a hot topic. And I think that interim managers and, senior business stakeholders, they need to have an understanding of this and stay current. And I know that Marisa has her hand up. I just wanted to say that, so I'm not trying to sell you the impact assessment. It's not a product, but, I just want to share with you some of the important areas of this. So we start with the system information, what are we building? How is it going to look like? Who is going to use it? And go into scenario modes, what are the intended uses for the system that you're going to use, that maybe the pilot, right? Then think about, and by the way, this is a collective effort that we do with as many stakeholders as we can, relevant to the engagement, that have different roles and responsibilities, because diversity here is super important. And so adverse impact, what are some potentially problematic applications and usages of these AI tools? Look at data requirements. Do we have concerns around privacy? For example, IP breaches is something that my customers are super concerned about. And so at the end, you have, hopefully potential harms and potential litigations for that. So this is a very important effort that I think, it's top of mind for me. So I'll hand it over to, I think, Marisa.
Marisa, you want to have something?
Yeah, this is ethics. To be honest, being a lawyer and talking about compliance and ethics is my core, of course, because I come from the humanities, the place of thinkers. And in Portugal, we created a little project called Augmented Human Intelligence, because that's what I feel artificial intelligence should augment us, nothing else. Right? I know that we will go to Arnold Schwarzenegger in a few centuries, but then I'm very happy that I'm not going to live at this moment. But till then, and while we are in the round of people, one of the things that I'm very concerned is that when I participate in a task force 2 years ago on AI and cybersecurity with the best thinkers, it was a think tank in Brussels to send a beautiful paper to the European Commission. The truth is, even the level of capacity of different professionals talking with each other to come to a common language was tremendous. Then, of course, you have legislators that don't have the technical understanding of what they are legislating. And now you have an AI Act that is going to follow, of course, the path of what we saw in privacy. I took immediately the certification of data protection officer because I keep augmenting myself, right, in all the certifications I can add to what I know to understand more complex nuances of things. But one of the things that I see it's keep being a problem is that being a black box, meaning how can we really going to deal with accountability? So the real nightmare still didn't even start it. So brace yourselves because it can collapse companies. So let's be also very, very humble in saying that this can go really bad, right? So risk management is something that we need to bring to the table. And even ethics in the sense of, look, now everybody before going anywhere goes and say, what does ChatGPT say about this? First of all, ChatGPT never tells you the possible bad part. It only tells you the good part. But secondly, meaning if we're all doing the same questions to the same God, we all have the same reply. Meaning where is critical thinking? Meaning we're not bringing anything new to the table. So I think it's time to bring the thinkers. I don't think, like I say, I do think that the reshaping how interim managers even work will be something. I think you'll start having interim management teams because it's way too complex for one person to bring to the table. And you need this very fluid, liquid people that adjust fast, think fast, know how to identify all the talent and value around them in technology and people. And I think that, to be honest, it's going to be a great time for people that are in the razor blade and very uncomfortable people for very uncomfortable times for people that like to be in boxes. So I'm happy that we're going to that time, but the ethics in the compliance, and as Joanna was saying, to do things in a realistic way with the best professionals is your only safeguard for what can become a really nightmare, if not the beginning of the end to a company.
Thank you, Marisa, for this contribution. Now back to Joanna. What are the questions the decision makers need to ask to guide the implementation of AI technologies?
Yeah, I think that goes back to this methodology I was talking about and the business understanding piece, right? So really understand, is this a problem that I have, and what are the pain points, and what is it costing me? And, what do I want to have? How does the competitive landscape look like? And so I think, and going back to Marisa's point, I think it's so important for business leaders to have a good understanding of important AI use cases in their industry. They have to know, and yes, it is very challenging to be up to date with everything, but you need to network, you need to create alliances, you need to empower people so that they can also help you. But so the questions are these, what is my problem? What do I want to do with this? What are going to be my KPIs? What am I going to be optimizing for? Is it going to be about productivity? Is it about empowering people? So one of the things that I'm seeing right now with the use of LLMs, so creating these scope pilots in, your specific data, that is helping the end users that can be, engineers, analysts, bunch of different roles. So the junior employees having access and interaction with this kind of, personal assistant, let's say, with domain knowledge, they really elevate their knowledge base. And so juniors kind of become seniors, a lot faster because they have this tool that connects with many data sources and a lot of, information that otherwise would take them a long time. So productivity, super important, but also this kind of new experience that we're seeing, which is, empowering employees in a different way in terms of, their knowledge and experience gets enhanced through the use of these co-pilots. And then, timelines, for example, what do we want? Do we want to, for example, create multiple POCs and then, we have to prioritize what we're going to select? Or do we want to have, it's clear that we want to have, POC and MVP and go to production? This is a different mindset, are you more of an experimenter, or are you really trying to address a specific problem that, needs a solution by the end of the year, something like that? So these are some of the questions.
And in terms of adoption and change management with AI, what are the main challenges?
So adoption and change management, in the engagements that I've had, I think it's probably the biggest roadblock really to, having successful digital transformation projects, particularly with companies with low maturity in AI. Because it's a culture shift that needs to happen, a shift of mindset, and addressing a lot of fears. There's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of awareness, and so what needs to happen is people need to be empowered. They need trainings, they need information. It needs to be demystified. All these misconceptions that people sometimes create in their heads, they need to be addressed. So promoting culture of openness is super important, of having this knowledge at your hand. And in particular, technical teams. So this is so interesting because, I work directly with technical teams as well. Technical teams that do not have this experience of data science, of AI, that are perhaps, really good at statistics, for example, but they don't have this knowledge. If we don't have their buy-in, this is going to be a huge problem. I've been there, and it's, really complicated because then this, power struggle dynamic starts to kick in, and there's a fear of, this model is going to replace me, and I'm going to lose my job. So these are some really important factors that I think need to be addressed openly by reassuring that these are tools for humans to use, so people at the center, and by facilitating resources, training, education, so that everybody gets on the AI train in the appropriate way.
Okay, thank you. Adam, over to you now. What ethical responsibilities do managers have in addressing the potential job displacement caused by AI automation?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think quite a few of the points have just been touched on. I think at its core, you're looking at trying to find a balance between the commercial interests of the company and the ethical implications for the company. I think that can only be done is by anticipating the impact that AI will have on the company, but more importantly, to identify roles and areas, and I hate to say even departments within the organization which might be at risk. And then anticipating the likely consequences for the employee. Remember though, we're not just talking about narrow AI, we're talking about the evolutionary process. When we look at AGI, and then we're thinking about the future capability. So when a company is thinking about automation, it can't really embrace it as a short-term window. It's got to look to the mid and the long term as well. I think that there's some very, very basic things which, as I said, have just been touched on. You're looking at skills development and training. This could be something just in the realm of just communication, open communication, digital literacy. We're looking at things like critical thinking, creativity and problem solving. I do find that these are certain things which are not really openly worked on in companies at the moment. But critical thinking, I used to be a teacher for high school. So I know that it is something that is certainly lacking with the younger generations today. Also, I think something which is flashing out to me in big neon lights is job redesign and reskilling. People do not need to lose their jobs. When you hear the old adage that you can't teach a dog new tricks, is completely false. Anybody can learn. My uncle, who was in his 70s, went back to university and he managed to relearn and retrain. Anybody can do it, depending on the motivation and having the environment and the encouragement to do so. The final thing, before I go on for too long, I would think about the social responsibility. We can't just look at the business in isolation. We have to look at the view and the perspective of society on a whole. People should accept that it is normal to reskill, retrain, and relearn. We are not living in the age where you will start a job at 18 and work with the same company until you're 65. Those days are long gone. People should learn to evolve. People should learn to hone their skills. And this is only going to come from the top. We're talking about engaging with local governments, policyholders, the EU supporting regulations and developing initiatives within society and the community to reskill, retrain. Adult literacy, adult education is not going to happen without that. And finally, everything must be human-centric. Put the person before the technology. Most people don't like change, as I said. People are going to have to retain their dignity, retain their their feeling of worth. And that is critical. Anyway.
Marisa, taking the words from Adam, in what ways do you believe AI can be used to enhance education and training?
Well, one of the things that I think it's going to help, but before it helps, it's like an ongoing testing module, right? So every time we do something, we need to understand that is like, now I'm going to use a metaphor of cuisine. It's almost like doing a dish and we're putting a little bit of salt, we put a little bit of water because modules are too in the early stage of what we're going to see. So with that humbleness in mind, what I believe is that AI will help a lot if we know how to use it to even, I'm going to give you an example, and it's public, so I really don't mind to talk about it and hopefully help someone else as well. I understood only as an adult that I had what is called now ADHD, and that I'm a visual learner, and that all the things that I thought it was a problem, it's actually what made my brain suitable for this role. I would like to make a test and show you that maybe a lot of interim managers are ADHD, because the brain thinks differently. There's this attraction for complexity. There's a need to understand. There's a need to have different ways of communicating, not only verbal, but with everything that you can. Meaning we are then probably also good storytellings and all of that, because we need different cues beyond text. Therefore, if you also concern yourself with how to better train people, I think AI could even almost tailor-made your education. There's a beautiful TED talk of a girl in Amsterdam that she's already talking about, if we know more about neurodiversity, modules, like big modules, can be then trained to help people engage with information differently. Because also we are all quite uncomfortable with dealing with so much information, right? We feel overwhelmed. We are drowning. There's apps for everything. There's platforms for everything. There's huge emails. We are all cracking, and I do hope that AI will actually solve that. That's my big hope, to take us out of this drowning of information. But at the same time, bringing this augmented capacity of saying that I don't learn like Adam, or I don't learn like my colleague. And as you go through, and the complexities of business demand reskilling, but almost in a constant level, right? Because it's not like you go there and you do your MBA, Clar, you're fine, and right? No, you are going to a complete era of a different era of even what is long life learning, meaning you can start use the benefits of this systems. And hopefully there's where I see hope, besides the end of the world in one side, and in the other side, more than testing beautiful images and musics, and we're all playing. I feel like we went to the play side of all of this. We love to do these things, but now that with a little bit more calm, we start thinking, oh, this can help me here, this can help me there, and then it does start augmenting us, knowing that we should keep using our brain. This week I saw a news that I think Sweden, but I'm not good memorizing, one of those countries decided to bring books to the children, because we're also learning in how we learn. So it's going to be even like with technology, we're going to learn more about ourselves. And besides digital literacy, we'll have some more human literacy. And therefore, there's where I see positive impact in organizations and their individual, the people themselves, either the managers, either the workers, either the CEOs. So I think that's the positive side that we can enhance, but we need to put ourselves in this moment of things are evolving every single day. So we need to be now daily learners and have and smile through it. It's like fantastic times, as our keynote said, if we see it as an adventure, and it's the worst of times if we see it with the obstacles that come with it, and also the negative impacts.
Thank you, Marisa. Joanna, similar question to you, different perspective. For business stakeholders, what are, in your opinion, the AI skills to develop, and how to stay current nowadays?
That's the $1 million question, I think. So look, I think having a foundational knowledge is critical, because business stakeholders need to communicate with both technical and non-technical teams, right? And so there's no way around it. I mean, you have to spend some time educating yourself. There are plenty of courses, workshops, trainings that you can take. create, a team that supports you. Maybe a person, each individual is focused on a specific area, but I don't think there's any way around it. Network, go to events, like this one and others that are more technical. For example, I think there's no other way around it. You have to do that. And then you also have to, I think, understand the limitations of your understanding and your knowledge. So what I mean by this is that I'm not working with a VP, for example. This is an innovation company, so they want the latest, the greatest, the best, GPT-4, and when is GPT-5 coming out? I don't know. But this reminded me of Marissa's comment of the Ferrari, because what I think, I haven't yet told them that, but this is what I think. Look, you want a Ferrari to drive at 15 kilometers per hour, because what you actually want to do doesn't require, this super costly and, not so efficient model in terms of latency and response. So it's important that business leaders, they do this effort to educate themselves and to stay current, but also when to delegate, certain decisions, or have advice from other people that are more technical, that understand, is this really what I want? So this is a lot of the work that I do, is guiding them in their strategy and nudge them that, well, hey, actually, if you use this model, it's going to be super costly. And then down the line, when you put it into production, the latency is going to be X. Can you live with that? So these are questions that I have to ask them, like the what if scenario that I was talking about before. Yeah, so these are some of the things that I think.
Okay, thank you so much. Back to Adam now, and changing subject. What safeguards can be put in place to prevent AI from being used maliciously or harmful purpose?
Well, if that was a $1 million question, I think this is a $1 trillion question. Unfortunately, I think that you have to look at it from 3 core pillars. I would say you're looking at technical responsibility, regulatory frameworks, and also back to the subject of how to be ethical in the situation as well. First of all, you must have clear guidelines, ethical guidelines for the development and the application of AI. Now, this is, I don't know the answer to this. It is pretty much above my pay grade, but who or what should be governing AI is anybody's guess. From personal experience, I don't think it should be regulated internally within the industry. I think that would be far too contradictory. I would say it should be an international body or organization which should be ultimately responsible for implementing legislation. And I hate to say this, but I don't think a sufficiently adequate body exists at the moment. But who knows where that will come from. And then, of course, I think we're looking at the transparency again and being able to explain the ability to not just the companies or the governments, but also to the end users. And there should also be mechanisms inside which allow the users to understand how the algorithms work. Because it's like there's no point in putting a child in, giving a child a shotgun and saying, look at your new toy. People have to understand the implications of what they're using and what they're handling as well. The next point, I think we'll be looking at bias detection and mitigation. I think that underestimation is one of the key problems with AI at the moment. If you look at, for example, we live, most of us live within the EU, and most of us live under governments which are specifically aligned with certain concepts and ways of thinking. That means subconsciously we accept those biases. If we look at AI globally, it would be a completely different story. How could we regulate it so it takes into account the representation of everybody and not the underrepresentation of certain people or even religions or cultures? The next one, I'm thinking about accountability and responsibility, but most importantly, I'm looking at human oversight. Who does the buck stop with? You can't kind of just unleash it to the world without expecting someone or a human touch or someone to be there at the end of the day to make sure that the actions are being controlled and monitored. And also a fail-safe mechanisms, I think that makes sense, where a human could intervene or have a kill switch. A kill switch if the AI is behaving inappropriately or irresponsibly. And most important, hold the individuals and the organizations accountable for their use of AI. I think that if something goes wrong, there should be a smaller amount of people who should be responsible, so we know who to go to if things go wrong. But that's my opinion.
Interesting. I believe that now I have to use my timekeeper role. I mean, the discussion has been very interesting, but knowing that I have to use this timekeeper role, my next question, I would like to have answers from all of you, your point of view, from your angle, regarding the same question. I might start with Marisa, but basically the question is, what's going to be the role of people with AI in future organizational management? Are they going to remain at the center, people, or not that much? So first Marisa, and then we follow with the other colleague.
Well, I was waiting for the opportunity to talk about Mira Murati, and I need to read one of her posts because I think it will encapsulate everything, and I don't want even to miss a word. She said, "This is a unique moment in time where we do have agency in how it shapes society. And it goes both ways. The technology shapes us and we shape it. There are also a ton of questions around societal impact, and there are a lot of ethical and philosophical questions that we need to consider. And it's important that we bring in different voices like philosophers, social scientists, artists, and people from the humanities." She goes on and on, but this is what I wanted to leave. Because what we see is also, of course, that AI will be a token of power. And that's also the problem. That's what nobody wants to talk about. OpenAI was founded by a group of men. The first woman that was in a position of interim said what she said, and now we know that the guy comes back. I have my own project called Humanity of Things Agency for literacy for the 21st century because I felt compelled to take my own time and my own money to try to leave something for my own children. Tools that they can defend themselves. Because games of power will change. So organizations will have a pivotal role in what society do they want. Because return on investment of a society that is not good for anybody, it will not be good for themselves. Neither for their families, neither for their kids, neither for their grandkids. So the people that own companies are people in the end of the day. So some good doses of humanities as a body of knowledge needs to be brought to companies desperately. New modules of economy are in a demand because we are also facing existential crisis that doesn't have only AI, but as we know, all the challenges that we have in our planet. So we're not playing business as usual. And I even joke saying, if we would have a collapse in nature and there's no economy, no NASDAQ, I can assure you that we will keep doing things. We will do it differently, but I don't call because then we would not call, but Adam will have a neighbor and the person that has, right, we would all come together to do things. So it's a really pivotal time for us to, no matter where we are, even if it's in a company, draw some lines in the sand. And I give you the example, Europe, of course, is battling, trying to be the light of the world in a sense. We are playing the good kids. We did it with privacy. We know very well how other parts of the world deal with privacy. With AI, is going to be the same problem. This is a game that in a way we already lost, and at the same time we cannot afford ourselves to lose, meaning we need to keep fighting the good fight, because some places will take zero interest in privacy. They will put AI unleashed, and Europe will keep being or trying to be a beacon for human rights, freedom, and, well, allow me to say decency. But of course, we don't have the structures in place. We don't have our own Amazon. We don't have our own Microsoft. So we are quite fragile at the moment. And that's why I think it's a big call for Europe to stand, to have infrastructures, to help their companies to be competitive. Because one of the things you said, you know, what is the challenge? There are many challenges, and one of them is investing. If there's no money, corporate can want everything, but you can also not expect that change is being paid by companies. Again, medium and small companies in Europe is the tapestry, is not the big multinational. So I urge any person that also works, whatever they work, to put the hat of proud European citizens, proud humans, and thinking that in a way we already lost, because we will never be able to control it. At the same time, the world never needed so much critical thinkers, even in business. And maybe business can be a driver of change. So, you know, I need to keep myself positive. So I want to leave you as a positive note, and but with the urge of thinking. Thank you,
Marisa. Joanna, may I have a short comment from your side?
Yes, my comment is short because I am an optimistic, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this job. So people in the center, I hope so, I believe so, I work towards that. I do think that everybody needs to have a voice and be informed and have a seat at the table. So my point of view is that we're developing AI, so it's within our hands. It should be within our hands. Now, there are many complexities behind this, evidently, but I hope so. I work towards that, but I think that everybody needs to be in the game, have a voice, so that we can influence these decisions.
Thank you. Adam, short comment from your side?
Very short comment. Well, I'm a boy of the 1980s. I grew up in a world where you had talking cars and talking helicopters and talking bicycles. I love AI. I mean, as I said earlier, I believe that we should really focus on cognitive augmentation. We can work together. As I was talking to a friend this morning, I said to him, you know, you can have a microwave, but you can still enjoy cooking. You can be an artist, but you can't be an artist unless you have a good set of paintbrushes. I mean, we can work together. We developed AI, we can control it, and we can use it to our advantage. Many people are afraid of this. Many people are worried they're going to lose their jobs, but I don't see it as a reason for people to be afraid. I hate to say, I think it as a reason for people to up their game, to start learning again. It is a reason that we can focus more on the creative aspects of our personality rather than the mundane, repetitive sides of our jobs. That's it. As Alan said earlier today, we can reach that millennium where everybody is at peace and everybody is able to have a coexisting together and be able to follow their dreams and their creative pursuits. I believe it's the start of something wonderful, not and maybe the end of the the slaves of the routine, which we have been for the past few decades.
Okay, one last question for 30 seconds answer from each of you, and that is coming back to interim management. How can interim management be an effective tool on leading digital transformation projects, especially those that are involving AI? Really short, Adam?
I can't answer. I don't know. Sorry.
Marisa?
Well, I do think that as my dear colleague in stage is about the work we can bring to the field. And I do think in a sense is almost like a person connecting all. So I feel like the interim manager superpower, right, will be this mind that is focusing in the practicalities, in the people, in everything. So it's almost like a little wizard, and companies can benefit a lot at this moment to have this kind of people. If they are good, they can be the spark of change that the organization needs.
Thank you, Joanna.
The interim manager needs to connect the dots and drive strategy, feeding from all these different sources of information.
Okay, having said that, thank you very much to all of you, my panel colleagues. I ask the audience to join me in a big applause. And from my side, what I can say is it has been a pleasure to be here during this hour, and I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to speed up. Martin, can you join Martin and the rest of the speakers for this panel so that we shuffle the minutes?
Sound okay? Okay. Hear me? Sound okay? Sound okay? Right. We are feeling the weight of the room, guys. We can assure you we are not holograms.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. First of all, we have planned to have 4 speakers today, but unfortunately, Elisabeth Battistella has called in sick, and we will do it with the remaining speakers. We wish Elisabeth to get well soon, and maybe for the next session or webinar we will invite her again. So thank you for coming to this session, Artificial Intelligence, Intelligence Artificial. This is an important topic that we can already is affecting many of our businesses, and we are honored to create this panel to share what we know has practical implications of AI on management. I'm Martin van Lelyveld, and I will be moderating this panel and guiding the process. We have a short period of time, so only 1 hour. So we are going to break this into chunks, short introduction of the panel members. We will have a round of questions to the panel members, and we will have time for audience Q&A. So dear audience, please prepare your questions. Thank you in advance for that. I will start with Gilles. Gilles Paes de Bouton, Bachelor of Engineering and Master of Science and Technology, University of Sheffield, 35 years experience in manufacturing industry in glass packaging and rigid plastics, from shop floor to business management. Since 2017, working as an interim manager projects for the manufacturing industry and businesses owner with fluid mind and tech int. Yes. And remotely, we joined us from South Africa, Andries Legrange. Goedemorgen, welcome Andries. With over 25 years of experience, Andries started his career with one of the big four, EY. With an MBA and a PhD, his expertise lies in collaborative approaches, enabling organizations to seize growth opportunities and navigate disruptions. As a versatile consultant and interim management, he has successfully executed projects for multinational and medium-sized organizations spanning various industries. And from Sweden, in Stockholm, we have Richard Noren. Goedemorgen, welcome, Richard. Good morning. Richard Noren is an executive interim management with steering energy with an MBA and Master of Science. Richard has transformed global functions from strategy, operations, sourcing, compliance to global sales, and has worked and traveled for more than 100 countries. I can confirm that from his LinkedIn. It's really amazing. He sells profit and value creation, not advice on daily rate. This is a very interesting one. Maybe we can use that one for a webinar. Okay. Let's start with the questions. I'm just jumping here from Elizabeth. I will start with Andries in South Africa. Andries, from an opportunity recognition perspective, if we seek to look into the scope of the contextual fit of AI solutions within an organization, what, according to you, needs to be considered?
Andries, you're on mute.
Can you, sorry, can you hear me now, Martin?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, apologies. First, thank you very much, Martin, for the question and the panel members. Just briefly on that question, starting with opening presentation from Alan and the previous panel, I think, first of all, with this rapid changing environment, we're all learning. So the concept of expert needs to be questioned in a changing environment. And from that perspective, Alan has given us a nice overview of the top level, the next panel, like an onion, the next layer in transparency and all the humanities, etc. And I would like to just deeper down come to the company and say, well, the important part is that how do we use this? So at some point you need to contextualize this for the use in your organization. And I think if you miss that step, you're going to miss out on success. It's almost like, if I can use Marissa's Ferrari, we all know Ferrari is very fast, but in half a liter fuel, it will bring you very fast to a standstill and missing out on the rewards of crossing the finishing line. So yes, not getting it right might actually cost you your business. So the typical, I just want to highlight maybe 3 little typical areas coming from operational perspective. In terms of contextualizing, first thing, the state of readiness for AI. Let's face it, AI, machine learning, AI requires data. So big question, we've heard it all over again. How ready are you in terms of the data you have? in your organization? Your data in silos? Are they in proprietary systems? How do you share them? And just a little example from a consulting perspective, we were working in the hospitality industry with one of the key programs in terms of reservations and booking systems a few years back before the Internet of Things. And suddenly we had real life online booking systems. And we couldn't get access to the data because it's proprietary data sitting in a reservation system. So you had to develop those type of things. So how ready are you? And then also your data reliability. The old saying, garbage in, garbage out. And I think that's also been addressed with the governance per se and the risk and control management. And then, yeah, just on that, a little one also on your data thingy, a little case study of fraud prevention using AI for fraud prevention. We had an interesting case here in South Africa of two political parties, opposing political parties in a bank, where the one party was accusing the other party of making fraudulent payments, and the bank fraud division actually confirmed it using that fraud detection system, just to be embarrassed to come back and say, well, what the system looked at was the use of the stationery that actually to confirm the payment, and they didn't realize that some divisions in the bank are using out-of-date stationery. So that's a good example of if you leave AI systems to be autonomous decision makers, where you can actually create havoc in terms of that. So, and then again, availability of data. Also, one have to consider the fact that your data could be from external sources. It cuts across. And again, coming back to the, if I can say, the hospitality industry, one of the things there is if you have AI for revenue power, room revenue optimizations, for instance, industry trend of like block booking systems. So you're working with tour operators, travel agents. So if you don't have up-to-minute data and connectivity between the various suppliers and the data you have to work with, you can find it very difficult to implement these systems. So again, coming back to asking the question, what's your state of readiness? I'm just talked about data for now. So let's just move on from a time perspective. Maybe a next question to ask from AI would be, what is your business model implications? As one director said when we were busy with the project, are we not trying to park a jumbo jet in a car park? So we're looking at, like the previous speaker said, you're looking at cost saving analysis or quality improvement to justify projects. But coming back to an example, practical, let's take the agricultural industry, and I'm going back in history as again with, if you're looking at the concept of automation. Automation created extra capacity for harvesting, and we're going to see that with AI as well. The problem of the challenge is, how do you actually utilize that extra capacity in your current business models? Looking at land ownership, looking at small holdings versus large-scale farming and the models around it. So I think one of the key questions also in industries, Marissa, the comment you made is we have to also reassess the business models that might be impacted on the various industries and the difference of large corporations and small corporations. And the third point I just want to come down to, and then I'll stop over here, in terms of contextualizing. We're working in a fast-changing industry, so you're challenging mature, proven solutions as new technology comes in. We're having new ideas, proposing new ideas of doing things. But how do you select your service providers? If you just read through the literature, what's happening in a startup world and VC funding, there's a lot of funding that's been made available as new technology comes out. I mean, ChatGPT, we talked about this a year ago. And there's a lot of AI springing up and funding. We call it the AI spring typical cycle that you go into. But as we move on, we realize that the promises or the services or the way we translate it into business is not that impressive. And either these startups, they have to pivot or they start closing down on the exit. And the challenge you have is in selecting your service providers, taking you on this journey of exploring how to use AI. Do they really have the depth to walk the journey with you? So how do you do your due diligence and select service providers that's in for it in the long, medium term? And I think, yeah, I think for now, let's just stop there. But these are just practical examples from a business perspective that one need to consider in contextualizing the use of AI within your business. And a need for open discussions around this, I think it's desperately necessary.
Thank you, Andres. Jill, IoT is an area where you are very much involved, right?
I've been.
How can AI improve the IoT?
First of all, thank you for the introduction earlier on. Also like to congratulate the panel before. You were awesome guys and definitely on a very, very high plane. So really, I feel here like an interim manager. So how does this layer of AI imprint on IoT? It's a huge layer. IoT, if you think about IoT 10 years ago, and I look at this from a boots on the ground perspective from industry, if you picture yourself a machine, just for argument's sake, plastics injection machine, what you would have is essentially would be the extraction of data from such a machine into a system, probably an ERP, SAP, for example. And what you would have, provided you have the right interfaces like an OPC, you just have a unidirection of data from this machine into a system. Essentially, for example, to feed the KPI system of a company. For example, looking at machine hours, downtime, uptime, good product versus rejects, eventually energy consumption. But essentially, you'd be feeding a system for data management. There would be very, very few opportunities for sending this info back and act on production. The best that you could do maybe 10 years ago would be, for example, to automate, and I'll take on Joanna's example on preventative and predictive maintenance or versus predictive maintenance, would be, for example, to automate parts ordering to the machine just based on the number of hours. So the machine reaches 10,000 hours and automatically, boom, it goes into the ERP and it will order X, Y, Z parts which are required for preventative maintenance. Okay, now how does AI imprint over this, or the layer of AI over this, taking the very same example, and what could we expect more? Well, first of all, we are talking about information, or basically the same information that you are taking at the time of IoT is extracted in the very same way into an ERP system. What you can do with it today, and using the magic applications that the companies that supply these applications can provide, would be, for example, to act on production data and do planning, optimize planning. So you'd start and stop machines according to the supply chain needs. So you would optimize your stocks, you would optimize your production, and basically you would run machines much more efficiently and your stocks much more efficiently. So the same data using an AI application with, for example, planning purposes, you'd be able to actually have a direction back to the data and act on production. A very, very other interesting example, and taking again on Joanna's predictive maintenance to make it a practical example, would be that the machine or the machines are equipped today with sensors, vibration, temperature, pressure, encoders that give position of parts or let's say parts of the machine. What you do now is that if you feed that information into the appropriate AI application, then it will reason like a human brain, and it would look at the status of the machine as a person 1 trillion times faster, and it will take decisions not on changing parts, on doing jobs on the machine based on hours, but based on the condition of the machine. So basically, you will run the machine longer time, you will use the machine more efficiently before it actually goes into any failure mode. So basically, you increase your uptime, you reduce your costs because you're going to run much less spare parts than before. And instead of running on a preventative maintenance model, you'll be running on a predictive maintenance model. So these are a couple of examples of how this layer of AI can bring, first of all, two directions of information, and second, the intelligence that probably a maintenance operator would look and take decisions. Okay, I will run this a little bit more time because the vibration which I feel in my hand is still okay. Now we are on the scientific field where the actual machine is providing this information and the system is actually feeding back this information for an actual decision. So I know this is a bit of a repeat from the earlier panel. I just thought I'd make it a little bit more, let's say, boots on the ground on what actually could happen in the shop floor. So I suppose that these couple of examples give you an idea of how AI can fantastically enhance the time where we're just extracting data from machines.
So only here pluses, so no negative sides.
Well, I mean, if we go, I mean, the panel just before went on fairly high planes of philosophical discussions about, you know, the advantages and disadvantages, the risks and the fears. I would say, I mean, the plane where I am here is really factory efficiency, plant efficiency. So yes, a lot more pluses than minuses. Of course, the design of these projects needs to be spot on, because AI not applied the right way can create quite a lot of chaos before you actually get the efficiency that you want to get. So it's not a magic wand. You do need to do work on the ground, but I suppose that comes back to, you know, what is the role of the interim manager in digitization projects? So yeah, but all in all, like the going of the world, a lot more pluses than minuses. I'm an optimist by nature. I think we're going the right way.
Thank you. Richard, over to you. How can the integration of AI disrupt traditional organizational structures? And what re-evaluation of hierarchies may be necessary?
Can you repeat the last part?
And what re-evaluation of hierarchies may be necessary? Sorry.
All right. Thank you. First, thank you for having me, and thank you for this lovely panel that is super skilled, obviously. So no, I'm really sort of future optimistic. Sort of I'm subscribing to the earlier speaker, Jill. I think this will work out just fine. So we've been here before. There have been changes, and humankind been really good at inventing sort of new kind of jobs and new kind of opportunities whenever we sort of taken away something else. So I don't think we should worry too much about that. But yes, it's before we get there, there will be some concerns. There will be a lot of people will be worried because we haven't done this before. So we will need some guidance going into this. I think I was thinking in my mind, sort of when I was listening to some of the speakers, I think in some sort of perspective that, coming back to the hierarchy, that Marx was right. So we will go back to a more sort of power to the employees, be more skill. It will be more sort of skilled centric hierarchies. So we will go away from the traditional pyramids. We probably will move towards, I'm not sure what you think, but sort of matrix organizations hardly really work sort of in some sort of way. Sort of I'm more favor of agile sort of organizations, and think about holacracy organizations, a little bit more like if you like terrorist cells, if we should use a modern word today, sort of small groups of people that organize themselves, self-organizing after a project, where sort of roles will be more important than titles. And then so we will move on. We will sort of distribute sort of the overlaying sort of CEO or managing responsibility into sort of what we need to do. I think we will see a lot sort of more flattening organizations accordingly. There will be more difficult in some cultures and some countries, but we will move towards in that direction. We will also see more enhancement of cross-functional collaborations between functions. We can't work in silos anymore, because sort of everyone will be informed, and whether we like it or not, sort of the AI tools will pop up and sort of have you checked with compliance, or sort of you need to do this and you need to prepare whatever. They will help us with that action. So that will sort of help us to grow together in a much more seamless and nicer way. We will also have a need to focus on upskilling. Continuous learning sort of has been a repetitive sort of message from a number of people, because everything that can be automated and everything that can be structured and systemized will fade away, and it will move away. Sort of unfortunately, that probably means that sort of some of the job skills may be sort of automated. Sewing machines will sort of come in place in Bangladesh or whatever. So we may see a lot of sort of jobs moving away unevenly from those kind of countries, and we may see a lot of sort of need for, I don't know, surfing coaches in Portugal and something. So it will change unevenly, and we will need to be open for what is my place here? How can I fit in? And we need to start leaning forward. So we're coming from a history in my mind where we have been a lot more reactive, sort of in good or bad. I'm overly simplifying because the bus has been up there. So we have seen the CEO telling us what to do. Now we need to take that step forward and start acting and doing things. So, and yeah, that is roughly where I'm standing. And also sort of this will also further be enhanced with sort of, whether we like it or not, sort of the AI will rapidly change the environment, and we need to sort of monitor this, and we need to be part of this rapid sort of iterations and lean forward. Either else they will run away from us, and the sooner we start leaning forward and start running a little bit, the better it will go.
Thank you, Richard. Actually, while you were saying it, I was thinking I had an implementation of Active Directory centralized, so from a global service, so from every country had to join, and one of the biggest resistance we had was the change, the people, and a lot of agile organizations at least trying to, but that was not coping with the velocity of the implementation. So the changes in the environment were faster than the organization. So that's going to be probably something that with AI is going to be even tremendous, so even faster, I think.
Yeah, good point. Sort of a number of those things that we probably look into sort of will be traditional sort of change and transformation management. Sort of, and how do we facilitate that? Sort of many years ago, I was part of moving all the factories for Electrolux, and one of the things were sort of how to move and do things more efficiently and so whatever. One of the main plant was in Italy, and they were sort of designing all the blueprints for a certain product, a whitewasher, a washing machine, sorry. One of the smaller plants was in Brazil, but sort of Brazil sort of came out with the products almost 6 months earlier than sort of the main sort of factory that actually developed the blueprint. Why was that? Because the plant was so small, and they only had one coffee machines at that small office, and that is where everyone gathers. Sort of the CEO, the compliance, the manufacturing guy, you know, all those. They met there and they discussed. And this is what we're talking about right now. So that people will be more informed, and they will ask for more information. And when you go along that line, sort of, then you also need to monitor that and sort of be more proactively.
All right, thank you, Andries. Richard, sorry. Andries, apart from the technical requirements and AI implementation evolves, are there other focus areas interim management can support organizations and add value?
Martin, yeah, I think there are a lot. And again, just from time perspective, I think if one can just on the top of the head, besides the project management and the change management that we've discussed, business process engineering. At the moment, AI specific focus functions. So it will be implemented in a specific space within a business process. Question: how does it impact the rest of the business process? Coming back to the example that I think Alan have talked about, the chatbots. Coming back to data and documentation, I don't know if you guys have experience with the chatbots. Sometimes We've got one or two big, large corporations here that using the chatbot is unpleasant because the help function is out of date. The documentation or the source hasn't been updated properly. So how do you do that management of those processes? Risk and control processes, data validity, coming back to that, and then IT infrastructure, database management, and those areas. Definitely, I think what I'm trying to say is if you're looking at the underlying things that can make AI work, there's a lot of work for AI managers or management to be involved with. And also your learning and support. I think they refer to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term mechanical Turks. Depending on the technology that you use within AI, at some point you might need to have that type of learning because the AI don't understand context or abstract, not necessarily understand the context or abstract concepts depending on the type of AI that you use. Those functions could be critical to pull through. We're talking about biases and different crossing cultures there. So yeah, in a nutshell, I think if an AI manager sit back and you look at his normal consulting career for you guys, I mean, all of you coming from background of big projects, implementation of IT changes as we happen at engineering, a lot of similarities, but definitely there will be need a bit of a reskilling, a rethinking, because you have to embrace and a bit of understanding of where AI fit into this. But AI management can create the capacity needed for teams to go through this challenging times of constant change, exploring opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Gilles, is this something you also recognize?
Yes, pretty much.
According to you, what is essential in a roadmap for an interim management in an AI digitization project?
Well, that's something that the panel before already touched base on. I was hopeful when Adam said he didn't know, but then it came on.
The same.
Yes. Well, one of the things Marisa said that the interim manager is a kind of a connector. It connects. It's a connection agent. And then Joanna talked about putting the dots on the i's and crossing t's. That is the role of the interim manager. The interim manager is not a specialist, or at least is what we say a specialist in general affairs. So the interim manager, I would say if we take that by steps, the roadmap, I think the first step would be to first understand the ambition of the client leadership. I mean, I think it was spoken earlier on, sometimes companies don't have a clue of what they actually need. Business leaders, AI is so young that, business leaders, they don't know exactly how AI can bring value, add value to the business. And they, I think Marisa was talking about the Ferrari. They want the Ferrari. I think that the role of the interim manager at that stage is to sit down, understand the ambition, and try to cut it, try to analyze it. I think, first of all, understand what is the scope of AI in that ambition, and understand targets. I mean, often case they are very, very vague or not, but understand those targets, understand how digitized the business is already. And if there is AI in presence, what kind of AI products are there? Are they simply descriptive, or there are some predictive, prescriptive products? So in a nutshell, during that ambition phase, you really have to discover how you can bring help, how you can bring value. Still in that phase, you need to try and understand what AI can deliver and understand especially the boundaries, the don'ts, the cannots rather than the cans, to be able to specify or to try and scope what exactly the intervention is going to be. Of course, you can be in a company that knows exactly what they want, but in very many cases where you have interim managers, there are smaller businesses and where they need to be guided. So that's step number one. Now on step number two, you need to do some basic system diagnose. You have to look
at a survey, and there my advice is you need to go to the shop floor. You need to see the systems. You need to understand what kind of interfaces are there. Do we have standard interfaces like OPCs or protocols like MQTT, or do they have proprietary systems? Because often case in industry, you find machinery whose manufacturers protect their own systems so that communication is limited. Is their way, I mean, look, iOS and Android, I don't have to say much more. So it's the same idea, is you need to understand if they're proprietary systems, because that's going to make it harder. And then if there's AI, what kind? Are we just talking about functional, or is there machine learning? Are there neural networks? You need to understand and diagnose. And for that, you don't talk necessarily to leadership. You need to go down to what the Japanese call the gemba. Go down, look, talk with the people on the floor, talk with the technicians. Of course, if you as an interim manager don't have yet the skills, I suppose that what Joanna was saying earlier on, we need to get trained before getting into a digitization project. We need to get trained. We need to get some basic skills, but we need to be particularly good at getting the right talent to help in a digitization project. That could be companies, that could be other specialists that we go and get in the market. Then third step, you design the project. And I would say that what, is a little bit like change management. You have to have a phased approach. You don't take the projects globally. You just start with the quick wins. You look for parts of the project where you have high return on investment, short-term, quick wins. That's how you gain traction of the people, is by actually showing that you can bring value fast. Then you can concentrate on the medium, longer term projects where the return on investment is maybe a little bit lower. So you need to have this phased approach. And when you do this, you need to do it definitely listening a lot. I think you need to be a little bit like a general practitioner. Listen a lot, and then before you actually understand how you're going to design the project. And time is your friend, because technology changes for the better every day. So time tends to be your friend in this kind of projects. And finally, on execution, you have to execute the project. You need to have the right team. You need to have attracted the right talent. And then it's really change management approach. You need to understand the stakeholders, like in any project. You need to understand who are the influencers in the company. Very often, they're the people you less expect to be the power people. You need to understand that. And for that, you need to spend time, you need to listen, and you need to be on the floor. And then you need to communicate very well. Comms are fundamental in a change management project, or on a project where you need change management. You need to be good at communication. And that needs to be very aligned with leadership. How to, as Joanna was saying, put the dots on the I's and cross the T's. I think that's the benefit or the added value that the interim manager can bring in this kind of roadmap.
Is it not often the case that the ambition on AI is different than the understanding of stakeholders on AI?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and that's again is the purpose. It will be, but then again, you might have extremely high expectations of leadership and extreme resistance to change from the intermediate management, especially from the lower management, with things like we've heard today. We're afraid for our jobs. You need to change that. I come from industry. I remember a time where if you were by the machines, you were smelling all sort of stuff bad for you, and had to withstand high temperatures. And I mean, AI is not going to remove these jobs. It's just going to make them less painful, more comfortable. Nowadays, in the industry I come from, operators are in an air conditioned room and they're just watching the machines running. They're like a pilot. If planes fly by themselves today, why do you have a pilot? Because if there's a problem, you have to rely. That's the same. So I think how you play with leadership and with the floor is exactly the magic of the interim manager, is to negotiate, make them accept a midpoint and the middle way.
Thank you, Jude. Richard, over to you. And another topic which I'm also very interested in, it's not always that sexy, compliance, but how can compliance with evolving regulations governing the responsible use of AI be ensured?
First, it comes back to sort of traditional things like sort of staying informed, monitor regulatory changes, conduct regular compliance audits, and integrate ethical guidelines and provide ongoing employee training, and so on and so forth. I think the role of a interim manager will be to work in the gray zones, take the edges out, sort of help us to keep up with the rules, because they will be a bit more black and white, sort of legal laws or whatever sort of are seldom that explicit. So you need to interpret them a little bit, sort of, and what does it mean for you and your business? There will also be a rapid changes of rules, and that needs to be monitored as well, and how you implement that. There will be something about sort of leading with ethics, because ethics is seldom that very well defined in the regulatory sort of perspective. So, and someone needs to say this is on the right side and that is on the bad side. And that will also, unfortunately, also sort of differ between cultures and countries. But someone needs to do that to help us going into the future. There is also something about sort of checking if we are following the rules, or following up, sort of, even if people think they're doing the right things, do we know that they're doing the right things? And if so, how can we help them to sort of do the right thing? Basically holding hands, pulling up the sleeves, being on the shop floor, as Giles says, and doing that kind of things. There's something about sort of adapting to changes, helping people to adapt to the changes, sort of, even if they want, sort of, how do they do it? And the interim managers sort of are really, really good at adapting to changes, because if there is something we know from the very start when we take a project, is that it's going to be an end. So we are really there. So we are really suitable for all the changes that are coming up here. There is something about talking to everyone, because sort of with the new AI, there will be sort of need for changes. There will be need for actions, and we will move slightly from repetitive things to doing things and implementing. But we also need to align with a lot more people. So we can't work in our own silos. So we need to be able to do that, and that will be a role for interim managers as well.
Okay, thank you. Again, I was thinking of the program I led for the implementation of the centralized Active Directory, and it was, in the beginning, it was all compliant with systems, centralized systems in the US, and then EU had to use it, or countries from the European Union, and that was already an issue which compliance did have right away a solution for. So, you know, this is going to probably be a big hurdle. And I expect a lot of companies to run behind on this topic. So, not sure what your opinion on this.
Run behind. I think it will come down to sort of how do we work, and sort of will we lean forward to, as I said before, sort of, and the more we start leaning forward and take a little bit more responsibility instead of sort of waiting for someone's order, and appreciate that we sometimes will go wrong, but we will be able to correct that. And now with the AI, we will be able to correct that even faster. So there's something about sort of the interpretation of context, sort of if we are expected to do something with compliance, we need to understand the context, and we need to understand that as in the individual and as a function. There's something about sort of being able to look at unpredictable scenarios, even if we have a central repository, sort of we will need to be able to understand sort of the unlikely scenarios that is not even sort of taken by AI or whatever. There's something about I think and it's coming back to a lot of sort of ethical decision making again, sort of, even if sort of this is what we are meant to do, sort of what will it mean, and is it actually the right thing? Another thing, cultural sensitivity will be important. Understand that sort of wherever you implement that. Sorry for that.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Andries, from your perspective on the compliance side and maybe from South Africa, what is your experience on that?
Well, I think Richard just mentioned a very key thing there, and also by the previous panel, we're talking about from a European perspective. What about Asia, Africa, Southern America, and things that the way like the one presenter said, this is we got certain governance that's in our subconscious, the way of thinking. So what might be ethical for one person might be totally unethical for a different culture. And I think those discussions and breaches, especially with your multinationals, I've got a bit of experience in the mining industry. We work with multiple cultures trying to extract resources, and those are usually the ground rules that needs to be laid quite early on, creating the boundaries and the spaces for discussion. So, yeah, I think ethics, when it comes to cultural differences, is a big topic to consider.
Thank you. I keep swapping your names, by the way. Sorry about that.
We like you anyway.
I'm not here to baptize anyone. So. All right, let's move on to questions from the audience. If anyone has a question for the panel. Who would like to start? Don't be shy.
I'll for the sake of time, I'll ask the questions at the end because we still have two speakers, and but I'll ask all the speakers if they can be available soon for a final round of questions, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Great. I would like to ask for everyone to give you a round of applause for the intervention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andries. Thank you, Richard and Gilles.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, for leading.
Yes.
Ser muito rápido na apresentação, porque quem a fará é o Helder Figueiredo, professor da Universidade Europeia, que vai falar um pouco sobre inteligência artificial e gestão das pessoas. Okay, thank you. Working? Yeah.
First of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation to be here. There's a popular saying in Portugal that we say, do not miss to go to your job, because at the end of the day, your boss can notice that you are not needed there. And I just changed my presentation just to start with this. Do you know this lady? Her name is Aitana Lopes. She's totally fake digital. She's an influencer with more than 130,000 followers. She was created by a Spanish models agency they were just upset with all the missings of the human influencers going to do their job, their photo shooting with the products and whatever. And so they created this lady who today does more than 10,000 euros a month in income for the agency. And she's totally digital. So talking about AI and the impact on the jobs, maybe this is already happening. So I don't know, maybe the popular saying we have in Portugal, it makes a lot of sense in here. So I will spend the next 5 minutes talking to you about my perspective. I am an experienced, seasoned HR professional, and I have more than 25 years as HR director and consultant in different companies. And I have my own vision about artificial intelligence and HR. But I would like to ask the audience 2 simple questions just to understand where we are. So first of all, just raise your hand. First question, who in the room already used like ChatGPT, for example? Great, thank you. Do you use it every day? Okay. And that's the status. So everyone tried it. Some of you are playing with it. Most of us, we don't know what to do with it, right? That's where we are. Well, in terms of, I use it every day. I use it already. I use it to create content. I use it to make what I believe is today, we don't need to build anything from scratch. If we use any sort of artificial intelligence system, you can bring up to 80% of the work is done, and then you apply your own experience. I think we will leave artificial intelligence by stages, and we are on the stage where we can use it like a co-worker, co-pilot, like Microsoft is doing with their applications. And I think that's where we are. I already started to become lazy with intelligence, with artificial intelligence. Because the other day I was chatting with ChatGPT, and I understood that, okay, I like the last answer, so now put it in a Word document so I can print it. You know, no copy paste. I just ask the system to create the document so I can print it. Next step, I will ask to print it directly to my printer. I don't know how to do it yet, but I will come there. In terms of human resources, people management, whatever, I believe that one of the main roles of people managers is to make sure that you have your own people, your employees, your leadership, your CEOs, your board members, everyone in your company ready to understand what is artificial intelligence, how it works. I know it's difficult because even for the most senior analysts, it's very difficult to keep up the pace with everything that's happening around this subject. We saw the crazy weekend of OpenAI when they fired, get new CEO, another CEO, and back in less than 3 days. So it's very, very, very fast, but you don't have to be afraid. You have to prepare your people to whatever it's coming. And in people management, we are already doing something. So, for example, I bring you 3 or 4 examples. Advanced talent predictions. The other day, I was listening to a presentation from our Portuguese ADP, the electricity company, and they are already using artificial intelligence to, for example, in their American operations, to understand why people are leaving the company. So they applied an algorithm that tried to understand why people they had a big turnover rate there in that country, and they tried to understand what were the main reasons that people were leaving, just to make sure that if I understand why my people are leaving, I may be able to do something about it. to prevent in the future people with the same characteristics, with the same criteria that leads to people to leave the company. So actionable insights, that's what we are talking about. And for example, L'Oreal also, the beauty company, they are already using artificial intelligence systems to scan the dozens of thousands of applications they receive every year to make sure that they are able to get the talent on board that they need. So today, most of the companies and outside there is a employment fair. So companies are there to capture the students. And these big companies, they are already using these systems because humans cannot scan so many CVs and applications. That's one of the examples. I believe that, well, most of the companies, we have surveys to understand how our employees are feeling. And so artificial intelligence systems, they will help us do that like faster. Because, for example, if we, at the end of the day, if we reach our home, wife or husband, and we can immediately see that if the day went well or wrong, right? So it's, you can recognize that. And you must act immediately. Because if you do not act immediately, the day can get worse, or if it went worse, it can get worse. Okay, so with our employees is the same, and I believe we will reach a time where we can really have life, the feeling of our employees, and again, the system may give us actionable insights. As a people manager, I believe that we should look at AI to be able to have actionable insights so we can do something with it. We talk a lot about people, the experience of the employee in the company. So from onboarding to offboarding. One of the things that is, and I think some of the previous speakers already mentioned it. So I learn in a way that may be different than Rui way of learning and anyone in this room. I don't know if you remember about the Matrix movie where Keanu Reeves had to learn how to pilot an helicopter, and he just charged his head, and now I know how to do it. And I can ask the audience another question. In every training session that you go, who in this room get 100% new insights, new knowledge about the subject of the training? Have you ever felt something like that? Because most of the time we already know 75, 80, 90% of the content, right? And it's just boring to be there to get the extra 10%. And so with AI, and there are already companies doing that, we will be able to get that only those 10%. And guess what? In 10% of the time. And so that's what we're talking about. AI applied to, for example, learning experience is to make sure that the systems, they can understand what is the knowledge, the techniques that we need to learn, and they give us that personalized to make sure that we use exactly the 10% of the time to learn the 10% of. And it can be audio, if you feel more comfortable with audio. It's a video, it's a role play, it's whatever. So because we learn in different ways and the system is learning what is the best way for you to learn. And so they give us exactly what we want. That's what I believe it will happen in the future. I will need some water, but anyway, I'll try to do it. Organization network analysis. Again, Joanna was here. Is Joanna from Microsoft? She left already? Yeah. Microsoft is already playing with this. So they have these insights for managers. I don't know if you ever heard about it. So it will help managers to understand what's happening on their teams and on the organization as a whole. So where is the information? Where are the experts? Where are, how are the relationship between teams and their leadership? So they scan all the usage of the Office 365 applications like Word, Outlook, your agenda, everything. And the system can give you insights, specifics to understand what's happening with your team. Are your team members spending too much time on meetings? Are they playing with email and with other applications during the team? Are they empowered to be in the team, in the meetings, or are they in the same meetings as the leadership, and so they are just wasting time on the meetings? So these type of insights, it will be available, I believe, in a more general way, because today this is used by only a small amount of companies and clients all over the world. But I believe that this will happen also in the future. And to end my presentation, I also believe that AI is going to bring us much more information and actionable insights, like I said before. For example, like using people analytics in people management. So today, if I want to know what is the turnover rate or the absenteeism rate of my company, I may ask the HR director to bring me the dashboard or have the dashboard online somewhere. So someone had to gather the information, to put the information in a Power BI or whatever, Excel, whatever system you have in the company. And so they bring, okay, I can say that it's 30% absenteeism. Okay, that's just a number. How does it compare with the last months or the same months last year? How does it compare with my competitors? How does it compare with the market? It increased a lot since last time. Okay, is there a problem? Is there some context around my company, around the location of this specific office that brings my numbers so high? So if I have artificial intelligence working on it, if I have my data there, I can interact directly with a system like ChatGPT, for example, and ask, is this too high for my sector? Is this too high for the market in general? Is there any event that can explain this for us? And at the end, me as a people manager, I will ask the system, is there any action I can take to solve this problem? So these are some of the ideas that I would like to bring to you. As interim managers, I think, like I said about people managers, as interim managers, I think you should be able to bring these ideas to your clients, and especially not being change agents, but change leaders, you know? So I believe that first thing, we need to understand what is AI and how we can use it in our business, the business of our clients, of course. And do not use it just because it's a trend. It's not about that. Understand the business needs of the client or the company. Play with it. Try to understand how you can use it, how it can be helpful for the companies. And there are a lot of examples, a lot of companies already doing such things. So I believe that the future is really an exciting place to be and to work. Thank you very much. Minutos.
Muito obrigado. E para a última apresentação, Pedro Martins vai falar um pouco mais sobre, outra vez, Gen AI, mas Empowering Business with Gen AI. Não sei, eu acho que esta audiência já está toda portuguesa, por isso talvez possa ser em...
Quiserem. Bem, obrigado. Primeiro agradecer a disponibilidade e o convite para estar aqui. Até há 2 meses atrás, a Singular tem uma empresa portuguesa de 50 pessoas, 60 pessoas, com 8 nacionalidades diferentes. Há cerca de 1 mês e meio atrás, fomos adquiridas pela Devoteam, empresa francesa, que são 11 mil pessoas na Europa. Nós já trabalhávamos e trabalhamos a Data AI desde a nossa gênese, há 7 anos. Somos ex-Microsoft, é grande parte da equipe. E há 1 ano atrás, quando começamos a utilizar... Quando começamos a utilizar o Generative AI, vimos logo que, de facto, o impacto da tecnologia seria grande across industry, across workplace. O que é que nós estivemos a fazer? Lançamos o Centro de Competências de Generative AI, foi o primeiro em Portugal, em fevereiro deste ano. Já temos muitos projetos implementados. Um dos exemplos que nós temos aqui hoje, o que fizemos para o CTT, que foi lançado na semana passada, o chatbot Helena, não sei se já ouviram falar. E ao longo deste último ano, com a experiência com o meu colega, o Daniel Rasmus, que é americano, que vive em Seattle, foi diretor do Microsoft Office Labs, antigo colaborador também da Microsoft, nós publicamos o livro, o Empower Business with Generative AI, que é 160 páginas, cheias de sumo, como costumo dizer, mas muito orientadas à prática. Um gestor, onde é que eu posso ter uma informação muito prática daquilo que eu quero, o que é que eu posso fazer com Generative AI, quando eu olho para uma estratégia de implementação. Deixem ver. Ok. O tema não é novo, como vocês sabem, estamos a falar já de 70 anos de história que nos trouxeram aqui à tecnologia. Nos últimos anos temos vindo com o lançamento do BERT através da Google e com a quantidade deles, que não são muitos, mas sobretudo com o OpenAI, a parte e o ChatGPT foi claramente uma revolução e uma democratização do acesso à tecnologia. Okay? Porque é que agora é diferente? Porque estamos a investir muito dinheiro, há bilhões que estão a ser investidos na tecnologia. Em termos de sofisticação, as redes neuronais estão muito mais sofisticadas, já têm aplicabilidade. Aliás, há o AI Winter, não é? Que durante 20 ou 30 anos não se fez muita coisa, até a área académica está um bocadinho diferente da capacidade. Há centros de dados, a cloud veio de facto também proporcionar aqui a capacidade de computação. E de facto há muitos dados. E dados não faltam. Temos visto também nos últimos anos, as principais empresas a nível mundial, a tecnologia tem adquirido outras tantas pequenas empresas, onde tem soluções de AI, e a própria Microsoft, que eu conheço melhor, tem vindo a fazer um percurso muito interessante nesta área, com investimento no OpenAI. Primeiro vemos do ponto de vista de legislação, o AI da União Europeia, parece que é uma das primeiras zonas do globo, nos primeiros documentos, claramente com preocupações de como é que o AI pode ser utilizado, do ponto de vista de responsibility, e mais recentemente, há 3 semanas, 4 semanas, o governo americano também veio anunciar o acto de utilização do AI nos Estados Unidos. Nós achamos, e aquilo que temos visto, prático, nós somos duas, não é? Trabalhamos do ponto de vista de como é que os nossos clientes podem ter impacto na utilização de Generative AI e AI, mas de facto, claramente, achamos que estamos numa viragem. Okay? Achamos que a capacidade que a tecnologia nos traz vai ter impacto naquilo que é aquilo que fazemos, como vivemos. Tá? Mas agora não sei se alguém daqui conhece o AutoGPT. Já testaram ou não? AutoGPT. No fundo é pôr outros AIs a trabalhar com outros AIs. O próprio AI vai escolher outros AIs para fazer um trabalho por nós. E há um momento muito interessante também do ponto de vista de impacto da inteligência artificial, mais concretamente Generative AI, naquilo que é o novo mundo do trabalho. Um estudo que a Microsoft lançou em abril deste ano e que tem insights muito interessantes de como é que nós, enquanto organizações, nos vamos ter que adaptar e a nossa capacidade crítica e mesmo mental deve ser adaptada para utilizar o melhor desta tecnologia e estas organizações que nós chamamos como ser organizações de inteligência artificial. Qualquer empresa, qualquer organização vai ter que ter em mente como é que vai utilizar a inteligência artificial para ser mais impactante, okay? Mais performance. E quando nós olhamos em casos práticos, e nós temos muita prática nesta área, prática de um ano, fazer coisas à séria, estamos a falar de dados. Okay? Posso-vos dizer que o caso prático e público do chat do Helena, do chatbot do CTT, quando começamos a trabalhar com os resultados do chatbot em Generative AI, de facto a qualidade não estava lá, porque os dados em que estava a basear eram os dados, mais 3.000 páginas de conteúdos do site do CTT, havia conteúdos que eram congruentes, e então o Generative AI entrava em contradição. Por isso nós começamos com o Helena com cerca de 30% de accuracy das respostas e terminamos, quando lançamos a versão há 2 semanas, a média andava 80%. Muito por qualidade de dados, o tom que eu coloco as questões e como faço o prompt, que é essencial para todas estas áreas, para todos estes projetos. Mas essencialmente dados. E nós achamos que, mais uma vez, a parte da AI, qualquer organização vai ter que ter em conta onde é que vai embeber a tecnologia nos seus processos de negócio, que acho que é para aí que nós caminhamos. A visão é que daqui a 2, 3 anos haverão 200, 300 AI específicos para embeber em determinados processos de negócio específicos, seja em shop floor, seja em banca, seja análise de risco de crédito, do oil and gas, farmacêutico, etc., que são as áreas que nós temos vindo a trabalhar. E de facto, como vocês sabem, porque é que é importante? Porque cria conteúdo e, além disso, analisa dados, como nós até então não conseguimos. Não? Nós, no fundo, é que temos humanos com superpower. Nós também achamos que não vamos ser substituídos, mas quem não utilizar o Generative AI, a UI, vai ser rapidamente deixado de parte em detrimento dos outros. Isso, por exemplo, para Portugal, nós no próximo ano estamos a fazer, cá em Portugal somos 1.400 pessoas, estamos a fazer e estamos a criar no Centro de Competências um reskilling para Prompt Engineering, que nós achamos claramente no próximo ano vai ser um dos defaults em termos de competências no mercado. O que é necessário e porque é que nós estamos constantemente a dizer aos nossos clientes porque é que devem olhar para o Generative AI como uma definição estratégica de que é um negócio e gerir como fosse um ativo. Porque, de facto, vai ter impacto naquilo que é o negócio dos nossos clientes. E estamos a ver isso já. A nossa visão é que vão existir aquilo que nós chamamos common use cases, ou exemplos da adoção da tecnologia para todas as organizações, digamos isto com a Microsoft, com os copilots, né, que surgiram e que vão surgir, em que é transversal, é responder um e-mail, é colocar um LinkedIn, um post, ou na parte do marketing, criação de conteúdo. É hoje em dia uma commodity, é como nós nas organizações fazemos hoje em dia. Depois vai ver os use cases de indústria, ok? E estamos a começar a ver já algumas áreas de negócio embeberem AI concreto, Generative AI, na utilização dos mesmos, por exemplo, indústria farmacêutica. Um dos nossos clientes é suíço, a indústria farmacêutica suíça. E, de facto, quando começamos a usar o Generative AI para aquilo que é fazer o screening do patient record e milhões de registros de pacientes e obter em segundos a informação que eles precisam, faz toda a diferença. E depois, aquilo que nós chamamos o Company Specific Use Cases. E isto é algo muito importante que nós achamos que vai ter impacto no futuro para as organizações, que é o prompt e a maneira como nós vamos criar as linguagens e obter os resultados vai ser um efeito diferenciador e, a nosso ver, uma vantagem competitiva nas organizações. Eu, por exemplo, e tal como é uma vantagem competitiva, tem que ser gerido como um ativo da organização. E isso no futuro, nos próximos 3, 4, 5 anos, vamos ver isto. O AIMP vai estar muito mais relacionado com os dados que eu uso da minha organização, o prompt que eu faço dentro desses dados e em cima desses dados e os resultados que eu obtenho. E isso é claramente um diferenciador na indústria. Nós vemos, por exemplo, na Merck, que está a fazer isto, e de facto já tem alguns resultados interessantes daquilo que é o output de todo este modelo de dados, inteligência artificial, prompt engineering. De facto, devem ser guardados a 7 chaves, porque é um diferenciador de competitividade. Este é a Helena, ok? Como é que nós começamos o Helena? O Helena foi um projeto que demorou, um processo que está em produção, está online, tem 50 mil, a expectativa é que tenha 50 mil interações por mês, é totalmente, utiliza uma versão 3.5 do Generative AI, não é 4.0, que é bastante mais evoluída, mas há uma limitação de capacidade computacional na Europa, eu não sei se sabem, mas um dos problemas que existe hoje em dia é a capacidade de processamento dos modelos Generative AI, questões físicas, porque fisicamente os data centers ainda não estão preparados, custa dinheiro, há muita procura e, de facto, no caso do Helena, que é o Azure OpenAI da Microsoft, há limitações de utilização, por isso na Europa temos só o 3.5, nos Estados Unidos temos o 4.0. Coisa que nós temos hoje em dia no Bing, quando vamos online, ou no próprio ChatGPT. Por isso é o 3.5 e comporta-se muito bem, mesmo sendo o 3.5, ok? E tem duas diferenças face àquilo que é um chatbot tradicional. Primeiro é que vai a sistemas transacionais, né? E quando vocês colocam uma questão de onde é que está a minha encomenda, ele percebe, seja em língua for, utilizando as capacidades do Generative AI, e se coloca lá a questão em chinês, ele responde em chinês, se coloca em russo, whatever. E atua sobre, consegue perceber qual é a nossa pergunta e com uma prompt consegue responder ao melhor àquilo que nós estamos a perguntar. Seja informação de custo de enviar uma carta, seja onde é que está o meu pacote, o meu package, e ele vai buscar informação de sistemas transacionais e diz onde está concretamente. Tudo isto usando não uma árvore de decisão, os chats tradicionais, mas o chat, o OpenAI, o OpenAI, que é a 3.5, e a base de informação que usou para treinar. Todos os dias vai buscar esta base de informação. Todos os dias nós estamos a ir ao site do CTT e buscar esta informação. Algo interessante é que o CTT, há pouco tempo, lançaram um novo produto e automaticamente o sistema está able to responder a todas as questões que se colocam. Isto leva-nos a um time to market muito mais rápido, a uma capacidade de eficiência muito maior e, além disso, as respostas muito assertivas. Se não conhecem, proponho que façam e que testem, porque realmente é muito interessante.
Posso fazer uma pergunta?
Sim, sim.
Eu conheço. Mas qual é a limitação em relação ao 3.5? Em termos de
o modelo de linguagem, a parte de output, quando estamos a falar de 80% de accuracy, nós achamos, nós a Microsoft, é um trabalho que nós estamos muito próximo com eles, achamos que deveríamos estar na ordem dos 92%. Não é um salto muito qualitativo naquilo que é o ganho, mas há ganho. Mas tem a ver com o custo, não é? Porque vocês sabem, o 3.5 é muito mais barato que o 4. Isto depois tem tudo a ver também com os custos-benefícios das organizações. Isto é outro caso que eu trago aqui, Mais uma vez, coisas que estamos a fazer. Isto é o IRM, tem 17 milhões de documentos, e o que de facto nós estamos a fazer é varrer documentos e testar a tecnologia primeiro de digitalização, que funciona da ponto bem, em multi-cloud, a provider, mas essencialmente a pegar no contrato e conseguir anonimizar a informação, transformar a informação utilizando o Generative AI para ir buscar a informação, sumarizar, anonimizar a informação de um contrato. Vocês veem ali, veem empresas, SDE, ele não coloca tudo que tem a ver com RGPD related e transforma isso em áreas. Nós damos a instrução ao sistema para retirar tudo que era informação RGPD e, entretanto, por partir desse momento podemos fazer sumarizações de contratos, criar templates com base em milhões de outros e ao final do dia podemos dizer assim, olha, então pega este contrato, eu digo qual é o nome da pessoa, qual é o objeto e gera-me um contrato novo. E o sistema vai gerar o contrato novo. Bem, há sempre diferenças face ao original, porque ele não é 100% correto. Bem, tem capacidade de criação, mesmo colocando a criatividade ao mínimo, mas de facto é extremamente interessante. E isto leva-nos à questão de tudo que é informação contratual, tudo que é informação de validação de informação, de metadados de documentos, nós vamos poder utilizar no futuro, rapidamente, todas estas capacidades do modelo. Por exemplo, nós estamos a fazer para um banco, 4 projetos, estão em produção, foi apresentado agora na semana passada, e um deles ataca 7.000 documentos de produtos do banco, e em tempo real, interage com esses 7.000 documentos do banco e diz qual é o melhor produto que eu tenho para crédito à habitação para esta pessoa que está aqui, é o meu balcão e tem 35 anos. Quais são as regras de abertura de uma conta. Todos estes documentos estão num knowledge base e neste momento temos o Generative AI a interagir com essa knowledge base em diferentes áreas e funciona bem. Outra nós colocamos 3.000, foi o primeiro projeto que fizemos em Portugal, e acho que foi o único empresarial, o primeiro empresarial, sobre contact centers, com NDP, e neste banco, neste momento já processamos 2.500 chamadas. Eu consigo ver em tempo real, a chamada acaba em 2, 3 minutos, eu consigo perceber o resumo, depois tenho um cockpit em cima a validar se vendeu algum serviço novo, o operador, se a questão foi resolvida quando é a questão do operador, etc. Era humanamente impossível. E deixando só esta questão, o que vocês veem aqui é um machado do homem de Neandertal. E a grande diferença entre o homem de Neandertal e o Homo sapiens é que, como vocês veem aí, os machados eram todos diferentes. Né? O homem de Neandertal era muito mais criativo. O Homo sapiens era muito mais standardizado. Okay? E os machados em pedra dos Homo sapiens são muito semelhantes. Aquilo que o Generative AI nos pode e nos deve criar, nos cria esta capacidade de criatividade que nós perdemos um bocadinho com o homem Neandertal, e aquilo que nós normalmente dizemos sempre aos nossos clientes e todos os projetos que fazemos, as organizações que conversamos, veem e vejam processos que até agora, estrategicamente, e que eram estratégicos para a organização e que eram impossíveis de fazer, já com esta tecnologia é possível. E o que vem aí, como vocês veem nas notícias, neste momento com o 5.0, o treino do OpenAI para dados que não são dados da internet, mas sim são dados das empresas, vamos ter soluções muito interessantes no futuro, nos próximos 2, 3 anos, para o trabalho e para a área empresarial. Muito obrigado. Foi uma questão disponível. Obrigado.
Se alguém quiser fazer, já agora, pedir aos oradores e aos moderadores, aqueles que ainda cá estão, para se chegarem um pouco à frente, pelo menos têm ali. E se o público tiver alguma questão que queira colocar agora. Eu sei que nós estamos aqui numa corrida contra o almoço, mas eu acho que é a oportunidade de aproveitar alguns dos oradores
sobre a qualidade dos dados, e uma das coisas que se fala e que aqui vou falar é que a inteligência artificial está a gerar dados e esses dados estão a entrar no streaming e estamos a ser contaminados pelos dados dos próprios streaming. Como é que forma é que nós, as empresas podem, especialmente na parte mais criativa, pode liberar essas coisas?
Há uma questão que hoje em dia promete, que é, nós estivemos a treinar o OpenAI com dados de 2021, não existia o AI on the loop, só havia o human on the loop. E agora, o que é que vamos fazer quando retreinarmos estes modelos outra vez e com a contaminação do AI? Isto é uma questão, é uma questão que poderá, que vamos ver como é que se vai comportar. Acho que uma questão mais crítica, e é aquilo que eu acho que no próximo ano vamos ver nas eleições americanas, é a questão de que nós vamos diferenciar o que é fake e o verdadeiro. Eu acho que enquanto humanidade esse é um dos maiores desafios que nós temos neste momento, é que sempre que alguém aparece com uma solução tecnológica para fazer, há sempre alguém que apresente uma solução que faça o contrário outra vez. Por isso, isso é uma das grandes questões que nós temos. Neste momento, os dados das empresas estão menos contaminados. Agora, há uma questão que na Europa e também nos Estados Unidos, mas sobretudo na Europa, é a informação que as empresas estão disponíveis a dar, fornecer para treino de modelos, porque nós sabemos que há a RGPD e há a proteção de IP das próprias empresas. Eu tenho, por exemplo, na indústria farmacêutica, acho difícil a ser alvo de treino em Generative AI, a não ser que eu acredito que o futuro vai passar nós usarmos os modelos de AI dentro e focados nos nossos dados, dentro das nossas empresas. Mas isso é outra história. Como estava há bocado a dizer, vai haver soluções industry-related e estamos a falar de LMMs que vão ser focados em determinadas indústrias.
Eu só vou fechar com uma questão, não sei se há mais alguma questão, mas eu vou fechar com uma questão para todos os... E esta questão surgiu há pouco quando a Joana estava a falar, porque a Joana disse qualquer coisa do género, e tal, os júniores ou os colaboradores mais júniores com inteligência artificial vão conseguir tornar-se super especialistas, vão se conseguir tornar séniores. Eu achei esse comentário muito interessante e quase que devolvo a pergunta na perspectiva de se esses júniores vão se tornar séniores, qual será o papel dos séniores? E o que é que organizações como a Microsoft e grandes consultoras que têm um histórico de ageism estão a fazer em relação a isso? Ou seja, estão a fazer para reduzir o gap entre o conhecimento que os júniores, os chamados júniores, que vão agora ser séniores, e aqueles que realmente são séniores e não têm, ou por uma questão de tempo, ou de gap geracional, não têm essa capacidade de fazer o catch-up. Não sei se alguém quer responder. A Joana, claramente, força.
Tenho uma resposta. Conseguem me ouvir, certo? Não consigo. É uma pergunta muito pertinente. Não tenho uma resposta de killer answer. Mas ageism certamente é algo real, ou seja, o que é que os séniores vão fazer? Eu espero que continuem a fazer o seu trabalho, não é? Mas isto é uma questão que está a ser amplamente discutida, ou seja, esta questão de as pessoas com menos experiência com o Generative AI conseguem elevar, eu não digo que se tornem séniores, mas conseguem de facto elevar o seu domain knowledge, a sua experiência, que de outra forma seria muito mais complicado, ou seja, teriam que perguntar a muitas pessoas, demora mais tempo, não têm aquele guidance para saber, vou buscar este documento, vou ver esta informação, ou seja, é uma realidade que está a acontecer. Como é que isto vai ser tratado? Não sei, espero que bem, mas é uma realidade.
Muito bem, não sei se alguém quer...
Posso acrescentar?
Dois comentários. Não, dois comentários rápidos. Força.
Em relação aos mais novos, e eu também já faço parte dos menos novos, né? Eu tinha um chefe americano que costumava dizer o seguinte: às vezes é preciso ter 3 anos de experiência para ter 3 anos, é preciso passar 3 anos para ter 3 anos de experiência. E, portanto, ir com muita sede ao pote se nós não tivermos o conhecimento, a sabedoria para perceber se os dados que estamos a receber na inteligência artificial estão ou não contaminados, tapamos aquilo tudo. Eu sou de Almeirim. Outro dia prometi ao ChatGPT para me dar a receita da sopa da pedra. Incluía a cenoura. Senhores, não leva cenoura.
Esta questão do ageism e o facto de haver o simples facto de falarmos sobre ageism é um problema. Um bocadinho eu lembro do Morgan Freeman, que dizia que o problema do racismo é nós, de facto, falarmos de racismo. Enfim, o que eu acho que, de facto, é pena e que deveria ser por aí, é difícil para os séniores acompanharem e fazer o catch-up do que são as técnicas mais recentes, de serem experts em AI, por exemplo. Mas há uma coisa que, de facto, os séniores têm, que pode ser aproveitada. Há soft skills, que são resultados de experiência, que podem perfeitamente ser utilizados pelas organizações, se de facto houver uma intenção de o fazer. Acho que não há aqui, ou não deveria haver, a necessidade de escolher campos. Não há aqui campos, não há aqui os dois lados da questão. Tudo passa pelo entendimento que isto pode ser very good teamwork. E é pena que as organizações, nomeadamente quem está ligado à HR, que de facto é o principal responsável, a fazer a promoção disso. E acabar um bocadinho com estes campos, os séniores e os júniores. Enquanto vivermos, nós de facto temos um dever de trabalhar como equipa para conseguir melhor. E de facto é aproveitar os skills de cada um. O Ronaldo ainda marca golos.
Bem, com este golo, eu queria pedir a todos os oradores e todos os moderadores que viessem tirar uma fotografia, pelo menos, do grupo. Acho que é o mínimo que se pode fazer pela segunda conferência. E agradecer a presença de todos e também à direção que se junte, porque colaborou, e quem esteve envolvido na organização do evento também. Quem se quiser juntar também é bem-vindo.
Está muito positivo nisto.
Nossa, fotógrafo. Oficial.
Vamos buscar experiência.
Muito bem. Muito obrigado.
Obrigado.